From the TFNB Your Bank for Life studio, this is 365 Sports. Presented by IdealMRI.com. Premium quality MRIs, convenient, affordable. That's ideal. And by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance. We are Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, your insurance provider built by Texans for Texans. And we've been protecting families in our great state since 1952. TFNB, your bank for life, serving Central Texans since 1889. Now it's time for 365 Sports.
Really good golfer, and he compared Michigan men's basketball team to you could either say boa constrictor or a python. We thought Arizona was that. We thought that even Duke was that. We thought Illinois might be that, and we also thought that Yukon might be that. No, it's Michigan. The Wolverines just smothered everybody in the tournament. Yukon put up a hell of a fight, but that's what you expect from them. They win it all. Michigan wins their second ever national championship as they just pretty much control start to finish against Dan Hurley and the Yukon Huskies, who had won 2 of the last 3 national titles.
It really says something about Michigan that Yukon played this game in the scoring range that they knew they needed to, and still Michigan was too much. It shows how good they were and how they could overcome slow starts or not making any threes until the second half, and I think only making 3 of them overall. And Yukon, every time that it looked like Michigan was about to pull away, Yukon nibbled back a little bit, or even at the end, I was like, oh, here we go again. This is going to be just like Duke all over again. But Michigan was just too tough, especially on defense, and made all the right plays. And I'm not sure I've seen a smarter basketball team 1 to 5 on the floor at any given moment. And I guess that would maybe be like 1 to 8 or 9 that they play. But most of the guys don't do stupid stuff. And they made almost all their free throws, something that I do think gets lost with younger basketball players now. And they made them all. They made, for a while, they made every single one. And that's what allowed them to keep pacing the game when it wasn't going exactly their way. But once it went their way, it stayed their way.
Free throws matter. Free throws mattered last night versus a team that does not care. And we've seen teams that are like, oh, well, it's not that big of a deal. And we'll worry about that if we need to worry about that. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But, yeah, Michigan great from the free throw last night. But we knew that they had size, but it wasn't until they actually got out on the court I was like, damn.
Yeah, they're
just I mean, as far as the matchup with Yukon specifically, like Yukon's got some tall dudes too, but Michigan just throughout the tournament and then last night, you're just like, that's a grown-ass team right there, man. That's a team with some serious size and experience, and that's what they intended when they put this thing all together. Lots of parts of it during the offseason. We touched on yesterday, Michigan being aggressive in the transfer portal, and it paid off with a national title, and only their second all-time, as you pointed out, and their first since the late 80s. Now you combine that with their football title just a couple of years ago, and man, it's good living for the Wolverine fan base right now. I mean, imagine those who went through the entire 90s and the entire 2000s and the entire 2010s and didn't see any of this except for the one split football title in 97. 30 years of no natties. And then all of a sudden, for Michigan, the biggest of the brands, I mean, on par with Texas, on par with anybody that you want to mention. They're right there at the very top tier. And then to have that happen in both of those major sports in the last couple of years, just a really special time for the Wolverines, a really awful time for their haters, Ohio State fans, and many, many others beyond that. But they were the best team in the country, guys. Like, I mean, that's, we could sit here and talk about how much we loved it or hated it or what we would have liked to see differently, or we enjoyed every single bit of it. The point is, regardless of where you stand on how it all came together, they were, and I think Dan Hurley said as much in his postgame, they were the best team in the country. They deserved to be the national champions, and they proved that throughout this tournament. And they were that team throughout the regular season as well. Arizona had their nice stretch of being at number 1, and they had the spotlight too, but Michigan was always a team that people were like, that's the team. And in the end, they were right, those who said that at times, because they are the ones now hoisting that trophy, and they did so in convincing fashion. And, yeah, it seemed like Yukon had a lot of opportunities but couldn't get shots to fall in succession with stops to really ever get – it was almost like a tease that they were just – you're going to get within like maybe single digits for a second, but we're going to always make a bucket right after, and we're going to push it back. And it always just keep you just slightly out of reach. And Yukon couldn't make that move. They made it very interesting at the end, like when,
they hit that bank shot.
Yeah, the bank shot, but you could see on Dusty May's face with a minute to go, like this thing's over, basically. Like March Madness pandemonium would need to happen. And then they hit the bank shot. But I'm sitting there watching Dusty May, and I'm like, he's a minute. He knows he's a minute away from a national title. All they have to do is not screw this up. And then the bank shot happens right after. And I was like, oh my God. Like, I bet if I looked at him, if I could see him right now, he's turning green or something. But yeah, beyond that late push that you thought, okay, maybe something totally crazy happens here. It was all Wolverines. And yeah, they're a worthy champion.
They started the year number 7. To me, when I reflect back, and I was just going through some of the games, they didn't lose for like forever. They obviously didn't lose, but 3 games the entire season. They got it to number 1 when they buried Purdue. They hammered Gonzaga by 40. They beat Auburn by 30. And of course, we know what they did in the tournament. They were always, I thought, 1, 2, or 5. They were 7 to start with. I had them going deep. I had them in the Final Four, but obviously I overestimated Arizona and others. But when they went up for rebounds, a couple of the guys on the interior, you have height, you have length, you have strong hands, but their bodies it's like I said yesterday, it's like water off a duck's back. They just, guys were not going to shift them out of play. They just, God bless, they're really good. Good for Dusty May, good for Michigan.
So when Dusty May 3 years ago went to the Final Four, lost on a buzzer beater, by the way, to San Diego State in what was one of the great games of all time in the Final Four, he got hired by Michigan, and there were 2 trains of thought. There was the train of thought like, oh, wow, Michigan got this guy on the way up. Those people were right. The other train of thought was, that Michigan just went and got the hot name who, because of the circumstances of veteran players and transfer portal, they kind of found their way into the Final Four, and, good for him, but this is not really real. And those people were so dead wrong, because in 2 years, he's right back in the Final Four with a team in Michigan that not only had, just needed a restart, they had really bad emotional culture problems because Juwan Howard had kind of lost his way personally, and there was just so much conflict. He's restarted that whole thing in 2 years, wins the title over the team that is the dynasty of college basketball right now in Dan Hurley and Yukon. And I will say this at the end, when Alex Caravan put his head on Dan Hurley's shoulder at the end of the game, I did feel it's the first time in my life I've not felt bad for an athlete who lost a game, just because it's like watching the kid at the Patriots game who cries when they lose. You're like, well, sorry, Alex, you've won this a couple times. I get it in the moment, but it's one of those things where I guess my cold, dark heart kind of shot out at him there. But UConn was great too. So they ran up against a better team for the first time in the finals.
UConn was a really good team. Michigan was a better team. Mm-hmm. And Alex Caravan, a great player, but I don't feel as bad as I would have maybe for a guy who had been really close and fallen short a couple times. He's already won 2 titles. So, it would have been cool to go out with 3 in your career, but he still has a couple of rings that he'll have forever. And so that lightens the blow a little bit, although I'm not sure it does it all for him, because you want what you want and you work hard to try to win as much as you can. And so there they were with that within reach. And instead, he's just only a 2-time NCAA national champion, Alex Caravan. And is it a dynasty is it a dynasty still, UConn, or if you only had the 2 titles? No, right? You're just back-to-back champs.
If they've won now 2 of 4, right? Because they lost to Michigan and lost last year.
Well, no, they won back-to-back 2 years
I think
ago.
So, yeah. No, if it's 2 out of 4, you win 2, then you don't for a couple of years. That all just depends on the 8 to 10 year stretch.
That means they've got to win it next year to be any kind of a dynasty, because I don't think you can just
Well, look, there's a lot of football teams that win a couple. It's hard to win, and then yeah, you can lose that. It can slip away pretty quickly.
Well, I think my point is that you're back-to-back champs. That doesn't mean you're a dynasty, though. Like, if you had won 3 out of 4, that's a dynasty.
Since if you were born around 2000, Yukon is probably the biggest basketball blue blood that you've seen, right?
I've said this for like 3 straight shows. Of course they are.
I'm setting it up. But to win 2 in a row and then not win, I think they're still in. I don't know if there is a dynasty in men's basketball.
I think
right now.
I think they would have to. They would have had a win last. They're still in the window where they could be.
Yeah, but
like
they're
still in the
window.
Next year, but like they're. I should have called them maybe the potential dynasty where they could win. Look, you'll see the top 5 today where I make some off-season predictions. I think one of them, I'll just tease it for those who don't make it to that time in the show, is that Dan Hurley will turn down the NBA again because there's a couple of jobs open that I think will take a swing at him. I think he'll turn him down again because I think he wants that chance to get 1 or 2 more before he goes, and he could very easily do that next year.
He mentioned just about a week ago, I remember it caught my attention, you better get us now. That's before they won, I think, to get to the Final Four. You better get us now, because I think this year he knew they were really good. It would take special teams to beat him. They lost a couple of conference games too. Got blown out by St. John's in the conference championship game. But I think Dan Hurley realizes this was kind of a connect team. If you win this one, you might win 5 of 6 or 4 of 5.
Yeah, I just spent a good few minutes talking about the dynasty stuff over the last couple shows. So now, having not won it and not pulled off what I talked about, they had the potential to pull off, which was 3 out of 4, best run since UCLA in the 60s and 70s. They didn't do that now. So they still have the back-to-back from a couple years ago. That's not a couple years ago. So, yeah, I think if you're talking like legitimate dynasty, they are the dynasty since 99. That's not even in question. Like, nobody's been as successful as Yukon has. All of their titles have come in the last 30 years, and they're still tied for 3rd all time in most natties with North Carolina. So, yeah, the dynasty of this era for sure. But as far as like the compact, like you've won 5 of 6 or 5 of 7, I guess that's
which
still
no
in play.
One's done since UCLA.
Yeah, I mean, that's still in play, but it's not quite what it was. So instead, it's a first-time ever head coach winning it, and we've had that now the last couple of years with Todd Golden a year ago joining the fray of first-time head coaches. That's Scott Drew a few years ago. Dan Hurley won his just not that long ago.
Right.
When you just, 3-4 years ago now at this point. So we've had a run here of coaches that are first-timers winning these titles in the last handful of years, and Dusty May's the latest to join that, and we got a little bit of foreshadowing when he was there at FAU. Hey, what if he took over a bigger program? Well, how about he takes over like one of the top 5 biggest programs as far as resources go, and then you can see what that could turn into. And it didn't take long to see what it turned into. The dude's a hell of a coach, and yeah, especially in light of the Juwan Howard stretch. I mean, yeah, this is really incredible times for Michigan.
Did we have Dusty May on the show?
We did.
I thought so, because he talked about Boca Raton, right? Isn't that right?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. And that was during that run. Yukon won it 3 years ago. Then Florida won last year. So Yukon's now won 2 of 4.
That's what I'm saying. I guess my whole thing is
skipping a year. So that's
okay. If you can't call it a dynasty, if it's like 2 out of like 10 years, a dynasty is multiple titles in a short span of time. So that was my whole point.
You have to have one at the end to connect. By the way, Michigan outscored their opponents by almost 19 points a game. They almost 700 points more against their opponents in the 40 games that they played, 87 points a game, giving up just over 69. So what does all this mean? At halftime, Yukon kind of got it tight, but Michigan's still in control. Yaxel Lindeborg was not playing well. Remember, he was coming off what they thought maybe he wasn't going to play. Listen to what might be the most honest, transparent halftime interview from Tracy Wolfson at halftime of last night's game.
Many opportunities to take advantage of the small defender, haven't been able to do it. I'm going to go in there at half, do as much as I can to try to feel a lot better, and then come out here more aggressive.
Well, knowing that you guys have just 20 minutes to win a national championship, what will it take?
Everything, no matter what type of knee pain I'm in, man, I got to go out there and give it my best. I played really soft that first half, and I'm gonna be way better second half.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
So
He might be the most honest athlete we have ever heard from.
it was like, hey, I didn't play well. He had some reasons because he was trying to get healthy to get through the injury, but maybe not the great conditioning the day before. And he was just honest as he could be. They are just really, really good. The guard, Godot, he continued to just make big plays. Didn't score a lot, but made big plays. They're just really good across the board at every position and depth as well.
Elliot Cadeau will be back next year as well, so they can already build around a point guard, which is the hardest thing to do in college basketball now. Yaxel Lindeborg, it was very honest. I think he can be too hard on himself, and that might just be because the last couple days I've watched the Made for March docuseries that covers Kansas and Michigan, and he is a huge focus of it, obviously, on the Michigan side, and he really does. Like, he takes it very, very, very personally when he doesn't play well, and he is he's very emotional when it comes to that. But I do think that he reacted well after half, and he can clear it pretty fast and go, okay, well, that half's over. I just have to start a new one, and all that matters is what I do from here forward, not what happened in the first 20 minutes. But I do think he could, as he moves forward as a professional basketball player, and he's really only been playing organized basketball for about 7 years. So the future is so bright and wide open for him. It's ridiculous.
Lost by 3 to Wisconsin, 5 to Duke, and 8 to Purdue. Otherwise, they went 37-3. Just dominant from pretty much start to finish of the year. Now, a couple of other notes about the Big Ten. What a year it has been for the Big Ten. They ended up winning football, men's and women's basketball. Here is a little graphic the Big Ten Network put out. Indiana, of course, the huge year under Kirk Cignetti, ran the table. UCLA bludgeoned South Carolina and beat Texas in the Final Four. Michigan with the national championship. Now, one thing about this has happened one time before where a conference won those specific 3. This does not include baseball, hockey, all of that. These were, again, football, men's and women's basketball. The SEC won it back in 2007. Florida won football and men's basketball, and Tennessee won women's basketball. So it's been since 2007 since one conference won those 3 specific national championships.
Yeah, I remember 2007 is the year I didn't see the sun. Even when it was out because of that. But no, it's a flip. I mean, the Big Ten is putting that money to use. They have changed. They had for a long time a bunch of money and a bunch of clout, more than everybody else, yet they had these really antiquated ways of looking at things. Jim Delaney was an old school commissioner. They had these old school kind of interconference rules about recruiting that nobody else in the country lived by but them. And while it seemed honorable, all it was going to take is one person to come in and stop doing it, which in football was Urban Meyer. And then it changed all the way across the board for them. And then finally, I do think that, they got tired of being in the conference. Like, you guys have all this money and you don't really do anything with it. It doesn't seem like it's paying off. Well, now it is. It absolutely is.
Come a long way since the alliance. That's for sure. Come a long way since the alliance. I think they've got some leadership that allows this to be the case, but I think it's mostly the environment and the right grouping of coaches at the right time. I don't think they've just got this guy could go anywhere. It would be great in any situation. I think they got really good coaches. They've got the backing, obviously, as well. Mm-hmm. And I just think they've had the right fits at the right time. But, yeah, I think more than anything, it's schools with great history and lots of money that weren't putting it out there quite as much as their counterparts down south. And during a different time, there was definitely still some teams bending the rules, breaking the rules, getting themselves in trouble with the NCAA. But I just don't know that it could be compared to maybe how much better organized it was or accepted it was in somewhere else. You know what I mean? And then you get to this point now with NIL, point being that, all right, schools can open up their pocketbooks and big, rich alumni and donors can contribute. And the Big Ten has an advantage in that regard. They are built around metropolitan cities like New York and Chicago, et cetera. And they've got lots of deep-pocketed old money boosters and plenty of young ones as well. And then you stretch them out coast to coast, and now you got the LAs and the Oregons involved. And it's been, an interesting journey for the Big Ten, but when you've done what they've done in a short amount of time, I mean, the proof is in the pudding. Like I always say with anything, like show me the national championships. And here they are. They're showing it to you this year alone, men's basketball, women's basketball, football, 3 straight years. They are right now the ones thriving the most in the NIL or outside of the athletes. That's for sure. And I don't know that it's going to be this way for forever, but I could see where it would be. I think the SEC is still going to jump up, and every once in a while, Georgia or someone, LSU, is going to jump up and win something. Women's basketball, football title, but you've given the biggest, most historic schools in big metro areas the ability to say, go put your team together. And you've also hired really good coaches like Kurt Signetti to come in there. And you had Jim Harbaugh there for the longest time. Obviously, Ryan Day, the UCLA women's coach's name's escaping me. Corey Close and Dusty May. I mean, they're also great coaches, but you put all those factors together and it's ripe for winning and being successful, and the Big Ten is doing all of that right now.
Yeah, they are. And here's one other note. They are actually, of these 3 sports, the first one since 2007, but the first time a conference has had all 3 of these titles as national champions with 3 different teams, because there's always like Florida in 2007, or somebody wins, just has one of those years. Now, you mentioned the money, and they do have the biggest TV revenue stream. They also have the NIL, and they have the the money, the revenue sharing, all of that. And now look at this graphic. This from Eben Novi-Williams. They win all of what we just mentioned. Here are the units that each of the conferences receive. First of all, the bids in the left column, how many units, which means wins in the tournament. And then how much of that goes to the Big Ten that will be split out. And it's not over 1 year. It's split out. I think one time Mac Rhodes told us it was like over a 6-year period to each team in the conference. Big Ten's going to get $60 million. The SEC, $48 million. The Big 12 is going to get $38 million. The ACC, $28 million. And the Big East is 20. Now, those are the 5. You know, the Power 4 plus Notre Dame in football. And then in basketball, you have really a Power 5 setup, and even more so with mid-majors that are pretty good. Those are the units and how much each conference will receive after this year's tournament. A bunch of money. Each team, each unit is worth a couple of $1 million.
Well, that's nice for them. The rich get richer. I mean, that's what it is the largest, richest conference gets the biggest payday by double-digit millions over the SEC. Yeah, 9 teams, 30 units, including the national champion, and obviously had packed the Final Four in the Elite 8 with teams. So they went out and they earned it. I mean, that's how this goes. This isn't given to you based on TV ratings or based on populations or things like that. This is based on going out and just winning. Like, that's what I always say it comes back to, is it's winning, man. That's all it is. You can point to all these other things and they can contribute to winning, but ultimately, how can we make our conference better? How can we put ourselves in a different position? How can we match this league or that team? You got to win. You've got to win. How you get there, it can be different routes taken, but the Big Ten is winning right now on a really high scale. And so, yeah, 9 bids, 30 units. SEC had the most teams with 10, had 24 units. So they end up 12 million behind the Big Ten. And then the Big 12, respectable, 8 bids, 19 units, 38 million total. I do think that the Big 12 got affected to a degree I would always wonder about, and we'll never quite know because guys are moving on, like a very prominent name of Texas Tech now moving on to the NBA draft. But Tech's so beat up. Yep. Iowa State beat up. They didn't BYU beat up. Yep. And I just wonder with those teams and the major injuries. And look, I'm not saying that other teams in the Big Ten or the SEC or the ACC didn't have injuries as well, but I just do think of what BYU could have been if they had their full squad, and Iowa State and also, who else did I mention? Texas Tech. Yeah.
Probably at least another round.
Probably a couple more units, right? Probably a couple more units.
Couple more units, $4 million.
But whatever. I mean, I'm not saying that other than anything that just like, I wonder what that would have looked like and how those teams would have progressed in the tournament, but it is what it is. And yeah, everything's coming up Big Ten right now. They were in a real weird situation. I brought up the Alliance earlier, Kevin Warren. They were trying not to play sports. The SEC, the Big 12, others out there push that forward, thankfully, although they're still unraveling all of the ramifications from that still to this day. But everybody was trying to do the best they could at that time. And then, Petiti comes in and big realignment and TV deals, and that was happening with Warren as well. That was all triggered by Warren going on under him. But then Petiti comes over and very much a TV guy, and I don't necessarily agree with all of their decisions, and I was not a big Kevin Warren fan, and Tony Petiti is just a TV guy, so I kind of side-eye him a little bit, but results are results, man, and right now they are winning all the big titles.
Paul, you mentioned earlier in the show about how the Big Ten was known as kind of like prehistoric times. The game was different for them. You think of them as a 10-7 game. Not that you still can't have those and be a good game. They've had teams now have entered the conference that play differently, Oregon, USC, and eventually others. But, yeah, they're not that anymore.
But they're not the ones winning the titles. Yeah, it's Indiana. It's Michigan.
It's schools that have jumped up like Indiana. Michigan winning is they're a huge school, as we mentioned.
I think part of it is you bring in new blood and new things. Okay, so if you're Michigan and Ohio State and, all these Penn State, all the old school Big Ten teams, and you were playing a certain style of football, and then all of a sudden Oregon's going to come in here and Washington's going to come in and USC is going to come in, and they're not going to play that way. You have to at least adapt to be able to defend it, to be able to do things differently. And so they've done that really well. In all the sports. Look, baseball, the number one team in the country in baseball right now is UCLA. So, look, and Michigan's softball team is nothing to sneeze at either. If we want to keep on going down the line of how well things are going, I do think that and I'm not a really big Tony Petiti fan, because I think he does look at this as these are 18 television shows.
Yes, I think he would sell it to Netflix the moment he could.
That make. This is the network that I have, and here's my lineup, and how can I make the best television shows, which sometimes ends up in good games, and other times it winds up, I don't care what the other network is doing. It homogenizes it. That's where Kevin Warren is now off to the NFL, where he's trying to screw over every Bears fan in the world and make them go watch their games in Indiana. And that's because this is just my personal theory. I think he gets kickbacks from that kind of stuff. He seems like that kind of guy who does those things. But the Big Ten very rightfully took a look at, what critics were saying about them. And instead of saying, well, you guys don't get it, go, well, yeah, man, the SEC just keeps winning all this stuff. We haven't won a national football title in forever. Ohio State's our most consistent program. Michigan was in the dumps. Absolutely in the dumps. Penn State's really good, but they can't really do anything. And so when they expand, they go and get Oregon and Washington and USC and UCLA. UCLA kind of, at least for football, was all right, well, might as well. But you get those three programs that are consistently better in football than they had been over the last 25 years or so outside of Ohio State. And it shakes up things. It shakes up the thinking of a conference, in that we can't just go out and, like they did before when they expanded and got Rutgers and Maryland, and think about this as geographical territory. We have to make this matter, because otherwise we're just on televisions in LA with 2 7-5 football teams.
Yeah, and then if you look at what Indiana did, of course, that sure is huge. If they would have done it, would it have been Ohio State? I don't know. You had in basketball, with what Michigan did in 2 years under Dustin May, you had this not resurgence. There was never a surgence of what Fred Hoiberg did to bring up Nebraska. They're really rolling. And, oh, by the way, those units, remember when Prairie View won the play-in first 4 in game and got a unit for the SWAC? That's $160,000 in money to 12 teams that otherwise they weren't going to get. So that was why that game was so big. The exposure, one thing, but also 12 teams getting a check over the next few years for $160,000.
Yeah,
for them, that's huge.
Seems like a drop in the bucket. When you're comparing it to the other schools who are getting millions, or hundreds of thousands of dollars, but it's better than nothing. If somebody wanted to walk in here and give me a $10,000 check, I'm not going to be like, only $10,000. No, thank you. I'm definitely going to take it and deposit it immediately. So yeah, that's 10,000 more than than teams in the SWAC had otherwise, and 10,000 less that you have to go and try to fundraise for. So yeah, that's great for them. It's always the story with the smaller schools, SWAC or otherwise, of not only the story of the university itself and how they're the underdogs or whatever the case, it's how they also then have that trickle down to the rest of the schools out there, and how much that matters to those who don't just have ATM machines they can walk to like a Michigan does on a daily basis. But the money part's obviously very much a factor as well. I mean, you were able to unlock, not that, again, there weren't violations ongoing, not that this was the first time ever Ohio State suddenly put an envelope in a guy's locker, or that Michigan clearly wasn't trying to find ways to be creatively advantageous. But I do think we almost kind of like laughed at the bag man there for like 20 years and goofed on the obviousness of it, when, especially down south, right? And now you just say, all right, everybody can pay everybody. And who does that help? Well, probably schools based near Chicago and New York, and with alumni based all throughout these major companies. And so you're seeing some of that. But yeah, it's been a perfect storm for that league, and they've been very successful. I think the question is, does it become like this more often than not? Are we talking about like a reign of Big Ten championships across all the major sports? Or is this just like a little pocket of time like the SEC's had? Where
the SEC mainly did it over, 15 years or so, 20 in a lot of sports?
Yeah, I mean, somewhere thereabouts. But I mean, yeah, like, is this just a little blip on the radar where this all was the perfect storm? Or is this kind of what the usual is going to be now? I don't know, but I'm interested to see. And it's been really unique to see the Indiana first time title, for example, versus the Michigan and Ohio State that you've already seen them do that plenty of times. But even Michigan, that was only the second time I'd seen them ever win a national title in football or basketball here in the last couple years.
Football, since 97, and then basketball since 89. Fisher was there when he was an interim coach, actually, when he came over and took the job, or was on staff and took the job. It's been forever. You're right.
Yeah, like we talked about, Michigan 89 with men's basketball.
Yeah,
like I'm just now seeing, like everybody else who's born in the 80s, Michigan win their second titles in those major sports. Ohio State we've seen plenty of times, but yeah, Indiana doing it for the first time, Michigan doing it for the first time forever. Sign of things to come, sign of the new status quo, or just the perfect storm, and the SEC is going to go reel off 5 straight football titles, and the ACC is going to win like 3 consecutive basketball titles with new North Carolina head coach, Mike Malone. Yeah, I don't know, but I do think that as much as they can be sometimes kind of tiresome, but like I do think the conference outlooks are more interesting now, because it is everybody sort of fighting for themselves and fighting for very much publicly these pieces of pie that are very limited. Yeah,
18 teams, and all of them, because of that $60 million, will get $3.5 million. They're close to $3.5 million over the next 6 years each. Tim Brando was on our show yesterday from Fox Sports. Today, Front Office Sports with the story that Brando has signed an extension. He kind of alluded to that yesterday, that he was not doing this or not doing that. I just wanted you to I sent him a text. He signed an extension with Fox and Fox Sports 1. Good for Tim Brando, a great friend of this show.
Yeah, good for him. Congratulations on the new contract, Tim, and thanks for joining us for a good long while yesterday. But yeah, good for him. Wish we could have touched on that, but still good to see it.
He talked about how he wasn't doing a couple of different games. He goes, don't take that as if I'm going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. This was an exclusive interview with Front Office Sports and Mike McCarthy. And so today that came out, and I'm happy for him. I'm thrilled for him. Now that the tournament has ended, here is how it ended up with the 365 Sports Bracket Madness. You talk about a guy that from start to finish, when the tournament began until last night's Michigan win against Yukon, David Loverood, from start to finish. Zach jumped Matt Pauley, and Jerry Brewer did too, because they had Michigan. Zach finished second, Jerry Brewer third. Matt Pauley, who had Yukon, was fourth. And then Scott Mitchell had Duke. He is not going to get any higher than 950. But those are the final standings of the 365 Sports Bracket Madness. Thank you for playing. And I've got other names on this list, by the way. None of us changed as far as Garrett, Paul, Craig, or me. Couple of other guys, none of them moved up, but I included Pete Sousa was in it, Corey Dickman, one of the co-owners.
And Scott's one of our people too now. So
Scott Mitchell, the former Lions and Utah quarterback who was on a couple of weeks ago. Now, here are some notables.
Can I mention something about Pete Sousa really quick? And I hope he sees this. It is, to me, really sad that Pete Sousa did worse than all of us, considering that he spends pretty much every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Saturday during the college basketball season on the court doing games.
Yeah, he does a lot of games, a lot of network games.
Like when I saw the first round and you had Jay Billis and guys were 3 millionth in the country. I was like, but then by the end of it, they were all like 98th percentile. Jay Billis was, after the opening weekend, I think pretty much up near the top the entire time. And so were a couple of other basketball analysts. So that actually did work out, but it was funny at the time to see them so far down. And it was like they had missed 3 first-round games, but then they missed like 3 games the rest of the tournament up until the end. But I started off strong, faded in large part as we got towards the Elite Eight and the Final Four, because I went super Big 12 homer, and I said as much before this thing even started, and that did not work out. But I just thought, what the hell? Why the hell not? So I ended up about where I would normally end up. By no means an expert, but had a strong start that was pretty fun to be in the top 600,000 there for a couple of weekends. And I didn't finish dead last, so that's a win in and of itself.
All right, so there we are. Here are some notables that are in the chat room, and their names. There's Paxton, Cuz's Corner, Bracket Cat, retired stockbroker Troy Urbanke, and also Tennessee's volunteer General Ursus. Those are 5 or 6 names that are in the chat that were very active throughout the tournament.
This is good news, because I won't have as many people from the chat to make a video saying that you're better than me, because I've got a couple above them, but Paxton beat me by 10 points. So so I don't have to.
But
I'll have others. But it was.
So Paxton beat you?
Paxton beat me by 10 points.
I wonder, can I read texts from somebody that aren't offensive that were sent to me without his permission?
No.
Okay. Paxton, within 5 minutes of the game, wanted Dan Hurley to be ejected. He does not like Dan Hurley. I think that's fair to share that with everybody. I mean, he had brrr, and I sometimes, if I respond, it's one of those. Now, if I respond, will be another one of those brrr. But Paxton was fired up for that game. But he called Michigan early against Arizona before that thing got out of hand.
Dan Hurley, to me, is a coach that, depending on who the official is, they're either going to be like, oh, this is going to be fun tonight. Dan's going to be after me, and I'll just roll with it, or like, oh crap, I got Yukon. Great. Yeah. So, because he
said last night that it was a hard game to officiate. The free throw difference was not helpful. But he said, if I knew I was going to get these 3 officials every time I had a game, I would sleep very well at night. It was very complimentary.
Michigan gets more free throws because they drove the lane more.
Yeah.
That was part of the strategy, because I think Dusty May saw earlier, these threes ain't falling. Let's get the big guys slapped.
I know it's Twitter, so like half of it is actually bots at this point, and a lot of it's just posting basically. But I actually did see a couple of random Yukon fans bitching about the officiating. I'm just like, come on, man. Like, what an awful life to live, where every time your team loses, it's because of the officials. It's never because you just got your butt beat in some cases, or you just got outplayed. Like, I don't think the officials had anything to do with that. I don't think anybody's really of that opinion, but I did see that. And I guess that's for like every outcome. There's somebody out there randomly that you could find saying the officiating this or that. But yeah, last night, Dan Hurley, he said as much after the game. That was the best team in the country. Michigan's the best team in the country. Mm-hmm. And he wouldn't just say that if he didn't mean it. Because if you're going to give him credit for anything, it's that the dude says what he means and means what he says. And you may not agree with it or how he goes about it sometimes, but I don't think he's a liar as far as something like that would go. And I think, the tournament playing out the way that it did, I mean, congrats to Kuz and to Paxton and to everybody else.
I always say Cuz, don't I? Is that what you were telling me? I always say
it's Kuz. It's Kuz.
Yeah,
we told you a few
Great
times.
Guy.
He's part of 365 Sports family as well. And
absolutely,
to have him representing West Virginia in our tournament bracket, cool to see that. But Paxton and everybody else involved. But it is kind of funny, that Pete probably all the people involved in the tournament that saw the most live basketball up close and personal is probably Pete. But hey, man, nobody picks these things perfectly, as we find out every year. Like that's the fun, is that it's such a challenge to try and figure out how these things will go. And this year's probably about usual for me, somewhere in the middle.
If you pick somebody that loses, if you have them going into at least the Sweet 16 and they lose early, like the first round, that could get you. But eventually, there's 320 or whatever, 500 points in the last Final Four in the championship game available, so you could make a surge if you get fortunate. But this year, there weren't really a lot of differences as who's going to win the national title or play for it. When we come back, the NFL draft is slowly approaching us. We haven't really paid a lot of attention to it the last week or two. We'll have John Cooper, our lad's guide, on tomorrow as we close in on it. But what players or which players in the Big 12 are projected to be among the top 100 picks? In other words, done and picked by the end of the day on Friday. The first round on Thursday, second and third round on Friday. Well, theathletic.com went about their top 100 prospects. Who is in it as far as the Big 12 teams? We'll have that today. Brett McMurphy, who wrote a column yesterday about how the Big 10 has kind of taken all the toys from the SEC in a certain way. And is it a trend, or is it something that's going to be longer than that? That and more. We appreciate your time, and this is 365 Sports. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it. You go to marcos.com. The first thing you see is unlock $5 of an order of $25 or more by clicking on this one link. Pepperoni, Magnifico. Actually, it's Magnifico. It's Magnifico, but I call it that. Whatever it is, it's Magnifico to me, and all I know is it's got a bunch of pepperoni on it, and it's really, really good. In fact, all of the Magnifico pizzas starting at $12.99, whether it's Italian sausage everywhere or pepperoni everywhere or whatever the ingredient you have, the protein on top of your pizza. Bob Macco in 5 locations in Waco has been in the pizza business for a long time, from the time when he was a delivery driver to then he got behind the counter and started making pizzas, then ran a store, general manager, and now owns 5 locations in Waco. It's the fastest growing pizza brand in America, Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
That's my go-to guy. Can you fix my smartphone?
Yes.
Do you have car batteries?
Yeah.
What about golf cart batteries?
Of course.
Battery from a T-fob?
Absolutely.
My boat?
Huge variety.
Toy boat?
Sure.
Motorcycles?
You bet.
My apartment building?
Whole building.
Do you have batteries for my party lights?
Yeah.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
We're celebrating the Declaration of Deals at Allen Samuels in Waco. Right now, get $11,000 off a new Ram 1500 Lone Star, plus 2.9% for 72 months. Cash in on $11,000 off a new Ram 2500 Lone Star Crew Cab, or choose 0% for 36 months, plus no payments for 90 days. Feel secure with America's best full-size truck powertrain 10-year 100,000-mile limited warranty at Allen Samuels.
Come by, let's be friends.
Bold are the adventurous. Determined are the leaders. Faithful are the healers. At Baylor, you'll find your calling, your people, and your purpose. Dare to be you, indeed.
It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Serving Central Texas since 1889, TFNB Your Bank for Life takes pride in being more than a bank. TFNB, we remain committed to these principles. If you value them too, come join us. TFNB, your bank for life.
You got batteries for my side-by-side?
Yes.
Replace my flashlight?
Sure thing. What about my business?
Ooh, good one.
100%. Batteries for my fleet of trucks?
Yeah, floor scrubbers?
Yes, and fire panels. We have pallets of batteries.
Well, what about...
As your go-to guy, if it needs a battery, we have it.
Well, that's all you had to say.
Could have led with that.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
This 3 o'clock hour is brought to you by QC Kinetics. Feel better, move better, live better with regenerative medicine using your body's own healing abilities for natural pain relief. No surgery, no drugs, no downtime. With locations in Dallas and Houston at QCkinetics.com. Now it's time for 365 Sports.
Let's fight on. Smokey and Paul and Craig. Michigan played an ass-awful game last night and still won. Yeah, it at times was not pretty.
By their standards, yeah.
Also, Dennis Haiti put this in there. Last night's game was one of the worst in offensive efficiency. In comparison, it was standard and a half, worse than even Tech Virginia, when remember they had that classic finish with two really good defensive teams, Chris Beard, who was Virginia's coach at the time? Tony Bennett. That was hard to watch, but again, that's how those teams got to where they were to get to the championship.
Tony Bennett, who did not believe in baskets until that overtime. Like he was fine. Like he was fine winning every game 23-17, like a football score. Their defense was like so smothering. It was ridiculous. And as a person who watched a lot of ACC basketball games, especially that year, I remember thinking, God, this is terrible. It's like every time you'd watch Virginia, it was just like taking like sour medicine. But they were good. You couldn't deny that they were good. But you were like, hey, can I see like 1 3-pointer like every 7 minutes?
That'd be nice.
A fast break, something like that. That would be nice. But I remember that overtime thinking like, oh, well, this is what Tech wants because Tech can kind of get this extra period and all it's going to take is for them to flip the script scoring. And UVA scored 17 points in that overtime.
No, the explosion for them.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to talk about the style of the game or the beauty or lack thereof of the game, yeah, that was not entertaining, fun, electric, exciting basketball. No, not by any means, but that's a lot of college basketball that I watch, I feel like sometimes. And so from that standpoint, while I don't think it takes away at all from Michigan was the best team, they earned that national championship. They had the best group. They had the best combo of group and coach, all those things. Yeah, it was not the most entertaining basketball. If you were a casual fan dropping in just to see what was going on, you saw all the fouls, especially there at the beginning. You're probably like, what the hell? I mean, I was worried early on. It's like, we're going to get these guys in foul trouble in the first 5 minutes of this game. Both teams had trouble shooting. It was an ugly game from that standpoint for sure. I agree with that.
Here are this is theathletic.com. We have a lot of guests from that outlet. This is what they predict as far as the 3 rounds of the NFL draft coming up later in the month. These are all Big 12 teams. There's nobody else. This is just who the Big 12 players and where they are projected. And at the very top, David Bailey, the edge at Texas Tech, has him going to the Cardinals. Spencer Fano to Miami at 11. Caleb Lomu, offensive. How about that? Remember when we had Whittingham on at Big 12 Media Days? He talked about the offensive lineman. At 17, we'll keep it on this page, Rez, and let's discuss it. That Jordan Tyson going to 21, back-to-back Arizona State players, 23 to the Eagles, the offensive tackle, Ian Nachor, and then Jacob Rodriguez, which would be such an incredible story, late in the first round to the Buffalo Bills.
David Bailey, transferred in from Stanford into Tech and was fantastic and is now going to be a top 5 pick. There might be teams that trade up to get him. If he falls past that 3rd spot, which I don't think he will, but maybe some of the Ohio State guys jump him. If he gets to 4 in the Titans, I think they might be open for business in there. I think if he gets to 6 in the Browns, they'll be open for business, but I don't think he gets that far. Both of those Utah offensive linemen going in the first round, no shock at all to me, especially given how much Kyle Whittingham sang their praises every chance he got last season, starting at media days and going through the season. Jordan Tyson falling to 21, probably the biggest surprise of that.
Wonder if there's like 3 to 5 spots because not sure about his health.
Yes, and Jacob Rodriguez, who before the year you would have said is going to be a middle round draft pick, now being thought of as a first or second round pick. It shows how when you watch him on film, he's just around the ball. Everybody needs a linebacker like Jacob Rodriguez, who is just around the ball wherever it is.
Yeah, it's interesting to see the Big 12 guys kind of singled out. And I think starting with David Bailey, Texas Tech's already showed they're going to just reload. They're going to open up the checkbook and go get the best players out of the portal and end up with a top class every single year. That's going to be the new status quo. But as I said at the very beginning, you can go get the number 1, number 3, number 7, number 10. You can have 5 of the top 12, whatever. You can have the greatest class, but I don't think that means that you're going to get a David Bailey every single time. And so he was special. He was very special, and they got a lot out of him. I mean, that was a worthy investment, first Big 12 title, playoff appearance, all that jazz. So it worked out tremendously well, but I do think he's going to be a loss. And I don't think you necessarily just like, all right, we'll just recruit that back up to right where it was, especially when you consider him with the additions of all the other guys they also brought on board, like the Lee Hunters last year. So there's a bar that has definitely been raised on the defensive side of the ball for Tech with the first and last names listed here. And I think they'll be super talented, but I don't necessarily believe that it just carries over automatically. So David Bailey, a really special talent that will be tough to replace is the point here. And then, Utah, I mean, when you look at them, there's a lot of people that have Utah just not skipping a beat whatsoever. Just, all right, they got the quarterbacks back, and all right, cool, they're going to be right there. It's like, so not missing both your tackles is a big deal. Like, it's like, yeah, I get that Bird Ficklen's super talented athlete, and Devin Dampier's really good dual threat, but I do think it's significant that you lost both your tackles. I mean, especially when it's not, you just lost a couple tackles, and they, Spencer Fano, he graduated, and he's going to go be a corporate guy now. It's like, no, they're both going to be top 20 picks in the NFL draft. That's what you lost. Like, that's hard to replace. So that makes me just a little bit slower to just go like, oh, yeah, just Morgan Scalley's going to come in there, and it's going to be right where it was last year. One of the nation's best offenses, this and that. The quarterbacks are back. Some of the weapons are back, but you're missing some pretty big pieces on the O-line. It's going to be really cool, though, for them to have the ability to say, hey, if you're an offensive tackle, guess what we just did? We just put 2 guys in the top 20 picks of the NFL draft in the same year. Jordan Tyson, I think his injuries and just overall durability, he's not been a full participant in all of these workouts, in part to try to stay healthy and because he's been banged up. And you know what, man? Like the college wide receiver to NFL transition is such a curious thing sometimes. Like, I think he's every bit of a first-round draft pick, and I think if he can get fully healthy, he's a good pick on the next level. But being honest with you, how many great college wide receivers did you just expect would translate over, and they never did, right?
Yeah, and there's some that you don't end up being
great. Like the dude from Eastern Illinois that you never would have talked about is like way better than the dude from Tennessee or something. But we'll see on Jordan Tyson. I mean, exceptionally fun player to cover the last couple of years. Really unfortunate he was so dinged up a year ago. And then Ian Achor from Arizona State, a couple Sun Devils for Kenny Dillingham to be able to just add to the resume. Great player. Certainly going to miss him. Although I'm starting to warm up a little bit more to Arizona State. I was a little bit more cautious with them, but the Cutter Boley thing, I mean, granted, you are replacing a big-time tackle and a big-time wide receiver, but I think they got a little taste of life without Jordan Tyson last year. Granted, it wasn't Cutter Boley man in the quarterback spot, but there's like this thing now where we just assume Kenny Dillingham's just going to have a great team regardless. Like the expectation, it's, oh yeah, I know they lost it, but it's Kenny Dillingham, guys. It's Kenny Dillingham, and he's built up that reputation for himself in a very short amount of time. Is he that guy where it's just like no matter what, as long as he's coached, they're fine, and they can just replace anybody? Or is there going to be some dips? And if there was this year, I wouldn't be totally shocked by that because you are losing 2 first-round draft picks, a probably future first-round quarterback pick as well, who's still hanging around college. But Arizona State, a team I'm not quite ready to go all in on contender, but I know that I'm on the outside as far as that goes, based on everything I've read.
To win the conference or to be better at a playoff team?
I don't have them as like right off the top of my tongue, but a lot of people just have them there like Utah by default because, well, Utah's Utah. And then Arizona State now, it's like, well, it's Kenny Dillingham. So, yeah, they're replacing a quarterback, but it's Kenny Dillingham. He's going to have a quarterback. And Cutter Boley did show some really good things in Kentucky. Like, he could be really, really good. I do think Kenny Dillingham will more often than not have no problem finding a quarterback. But I think to replace a big-time tackle, a big-time wide receiver, a new quarterback, I'm just not as all in on them as some people.
Running back, don't forget about
running back, Raleigh Brown. I mean, so there's more that they're having to replace than maybe when you just glance over there. But Jacob Rodriguez, great player, an all-time Big 12 Hall of Fame type of a guy as far as the way his career ended and just kind of how much he meant to Tech. And I'm excited to see where he goes. First round, though. I mean, wow.
That surprised me. I thought he would, you never know, from 25 to about 35 or so. It depends on what other people do in front of you. Do you trade back? Is it effective? I hope the hell that'd be great. Love the story.
Be a good story. I just never suspected that.
But I did not expect him to be, and that's why we put it up. We're not going to do all 3 rounds right now. That's the first round. But David Bailey, very high. He had more sacks at Texas Tech than he had in 3 years at Stanford. So he produced when he was there and, of course, had better people around him too.
Have you seen in some mock drafts I saw where David Bailey was going to Washington? For those that don't know, like 2 of us are Washington fans here. And that would be at number 7. Well, he's clearly not getting to number 7 now. Oh, well, this is earlier on. Let me explain. Okay. So earlier on, David Bailey was being mocked there, but now at this point, it's pretty clear they're not getting David Bailey.
If he drops after 3 and you're anybody all the way to the Cowboys at 12 and you don't find a way to go up and get him because he's that disruptive, I know it doesn't always then you better have a plan
I know
to be able to do that.
All I know is that Cleveland's picking right ahead of Washington. So if he is available, David Bailey will be a commander because Cleveland would find some way to screw that up and draft like some rando. Instead, what's now being mocked for Washington, and this is the reason why I brought this up, is because I would have loved to have seen David Bailey, but he's not going to fall there. But Jeremiah Love is the trendy pick for Washington if he can fall all the way to 7.
I would say if he gets past the Titans at 4, they have to pick him at 7. They have to. That's such a great pairing with him and gives Daniels such a nice quarterback running back duo. I think that would be a great spot for him to land if he gets past the Titans at 4, and they both have the same thing. It's Cam Ward, Jaden Daniels. Who can you give a stud running back to and really help out in their early part of the development? So, I would not be surprised to see him get there if he got to 7. We'll see with Jeremiah Love. I mean, he's a running back, so he could go anywhere from 4 to 19, and no one would be surprised.
That kid they got from Arizona, was it Merritt?
Corey Krosky Merritt.
Yeah. He really, I think, has something, but not Jeremiah Love type of stuff. No, not at all.
No, not top 10 pick in the NFL draft.
No, he was good. I think he was better than where he was drafted, no question. We will look at the other in the top 100, the second round, and there's like 8 or 9 other names that we'll get to as we go along with the show today. Brett McMurphy wrote an article yesterday about how the SEC is slipping. Doesn't mean that they're dead, but they are slipping, and the Big Ten has taken some of their turf and taken a big chunk of it. And then last night, the Big Ten wins a men's basketball title. The night before, UCLA did. In football, we know what Indiana did. So he'll join us next on the show. Brett McMurphy from On3 Sports. This is 365 Sports. QC Kinetics. I've shared the story about how much it's helped me. Let me help you. If any of this has been something you've dealt with, wake up in the morning, there's a joint, a back, your hip, your neck, your shoulder, your knee, your ankle joints they're always aching. And the only time they're not is if you do fall asleep. And that's if you fall asleep, because sometimes aches and pains can keep you awake at night or just kind of affect your function throughout the day. I had that with my hip. It really was because of my lower back being kind of gristly. I had steroid injections in my back to kick the can down the road. And then I heard a friend of mine, RJ Choppy, talking about QC Kinetics. I said, damn it, before I do anything else, I want to go see them. And I did. And I had a consultation, free consultation, locations in Dallas. You see the numbers. We'll give you those in a minute, both Dallas and Houston. I was on my way back to Waco. After the free consultation, they called me back. They said, hey, we want to talk with you more about you doing this treatment. I drove back from about Waxahachie, turned around, had a treatment. 4 of them. The first 2, they drew my blood, and then they spun it, and they put it back in my system with my own natural biologics. The third treatment was they took stem cells out of the back of my left hip bone, spun it around and put it back in my system. The fourth one was blood again that was like fertilizer for the first 3. I have played golf 2 or 3 times in a row. I have now run about 4 to 5 miles in the last 2 to 3 weeks after nothing, couldn't even jog for 15 steps for about 5 years. It works. If you have tried everything and it has not worked for you, listen to me because it's worked for me and it continues to work. It does work. Dallas, 972-972-8610. In Houston, 713-913-5285. Take what is naturally in your body, spin it, and put it back in your body. QCkinetics.com.
It's in the major leagues for 24 years. And let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
With over 25 years of excellence in IT, Carrion Solutions is your trusted technology partner. From managed IT services to cutting-edge cybersecurity, our expert team delivers tailored solutions that drive success. Our portfolio includes products such as Veeam, Bitdefender, Microsoft, Cisco, and Fortinet. Call David Carrion and his team of experts. Call 888-522-2221 or visit us at carrionsolutions.com.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
Hello, I'm Camille Johnson with Camille Johnson Realtors. We specialize in selling residential real estate agent all across our community, and we love serving all types of families. We have been in business at Camille Johnson Realtors for almost 9 years, and I have been a residential real estate agent for almost 40 years. And we love our partnership with 365. So thank you for partnering with me, and thank you so much to all of my clients who have made our company a success.
Car has the trucks, man, they have the one for you. Crew cab, short or long bed, silver, black or blue. Texas size selection, great prices too. Richard Carr, he has the truck for you. Carr has the trucks, man, he has the truck you need. If you want the best truck, you want a GMC. Texas size selection, great prices too. Richard Carr, they have the truck for you.
Pepperoni Magnifico. Pepperoni Magnifico. Marco's Pepperoni Magnifico. Classic and crispy cut pepperoni, 3 melty cheeses, all on our fresh made dough. And starting at just $12.99 for a large, it's no wonder Marco's was named America's favorite pizza chain.
This 4 o'clock hour is brought to you by Stonewood Dental, your one-stop shop for your dental needs, specializing in teeth cleaning, fillings, crowns, sealants, root canals, IV sedation, extractions, implants, bridges, dentures, full mouth restorations, and bioaesthetic dentistry. Our priority is your comfort from the moment you walk through the front door. Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas. Now it's time for 365 Sports.
Brett McMurphy from On3 tries to get away from us during the non-football season because, well, I mean, it's non-football season, but wrote a great story yesterday about how the Big Ten is thriving. And it was usually the SEC over and over again in many sports. And he joins us, especially the major sports on 365 Sports. Brett, thank you very much for your time. And then last night after your column, Michigan just like validates everything you were saying.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I can run, but I can't hide from you guys. So it's good to catch up, Smokey. But, yeah, I wrote, Monday that basically the SEC has fallen and can't get up. And I know these things go in cycles, but, with the SEC not winning the football championship for the third year in a row, not getting its men's team to the Final Four, not winning the women's basketball title. It's the first time in 9 years the SEC has gone over in those three events. And I know most people listening probably could care less about men's and women's basketball. I understand that. But it is a real concern football-wise. They've gone 3 consecutive years, not only not winning a title, they haven't even played in the championship game in 3 years. And the last time that happened was back in 99 through 2002 when Nebraska and Oklahoma were playing in the BCS. Miami and Virginia Tech were playing in the BCS title games. Miami and Virginia Tech were the Big East. Oklahoma and Nebraska were in the Big 12. Paul Feinbaum still had hair. So a lot of things have happened since that happened. And guys, I think, I know it goes in cycles, and part of this is it's hard for the SEC to continue the success they had when they won 13 titles in a 17-year span in football. But I think this is a sign of things to come. You guys probably noticed the last couple weeks that Vegas put out all the projected win totals for all the power conference schools. There's only 2 teams in the SEC that are above 9 wins, and that's Georgia and Texas. It doesn't mean that they're the only 2 teams that can win that many games. They can certainly win more. They can certainly go 6-6. Who knows? But that gives you an idea. By comparison, the Big Ten has 4 schools that are projected as over winning 9 games, and that's Indiana, Ohio State, Oregon, and Penn State. So I guarantee this. There are not any 8-4 teams from any league that are going to make the college football playoff. So is the SEC going to go 0-4 this year? We'll have to find out. But I think this is could be a long-term problem for the SEC, and obviously an unexpected situation that they're certainly not used to or happy about.
Brett, how do you think they change their strategies going forward, if at all? I do think one of the things that's happened to them is that they have stumbled into this where the propaganda is no longer true anymore, and they don't know how to pivot from that.
Well, I would say from the PR point of it, I agree with you. And I think part of that is, look, when you win 13 national titles in over 17 years, when they talk about how strong the conference is and how hard it is and all that, you're just like, okay, sure, I buy that. You can't push back on that. But then they don't have success in the college football playoff. Last year, they were 2-8 in the bowl games and playoff games, excluding SEC versus SEC games. And yeah, the bowl games are meaningless, except the SEC of those 10 games, they were favored in 7 of the 10 games. They only won 2 of them. So it's hard to talk about how strong your conference is when you're not winning those interconference games with the other conferences. Also in the non-conference portion of the season, the SEC is not having as much success as they usually do. So now it's kind of hard to talk about how strong your conference is, how deep it is, and all that. I actually do believe the SEC is the strongest conference from top to bottom, but I do think the Big Ten has as many top-heavy teams as they do. I think the bottom of the Big Ten is probably the worst, well, along with the ACC. I think the Big 12 is the most competitive. Obviously, Texas Tech's at the top, and after that, throw everybody else in a hat. But for the SEC, some years they really weren't that strong in the 2000s. But nobody remembers that. Because why? Because Saban won a national title that year with Alabama, and that's all everyone remembers. So now the Big Ten's winning all the titles, and now, when the SEC talks about how good they are top to bottom, it's kind of like, well, wait, you used to say national titles only member. Now you want to talk about depth of the conference. So bottom line is, whether it's fair or not, everybody judges a conference by whether they win a national title or not. And for the SEC, I mentioned it's been 9 years since they've been shut out in those 3 sports. You have to go all the way back to 2002. It's only happened 4 times. So, again, this is not something the SEC is used to.
Brett, when it comes to the Big Ten, I mean, obviously the ability to go and pay players with all of their resources was a big factor. Michigan, Ohio State, but the coaching, you mentioned prominently throughout the article of how great Saban truly was and how he probably distorted the perception of the SEC for about 20 years there. But for the Big Ten, do you attribute it not only to the money, but also a hire like Cignetti, but possibly to what else? Why are they having the success they're having right now, you think?
Yeah, I think a little bit of it. I think it's probably more the money part of it, because, you saw the quote in there and heard it from Ed Ogeron about how he joked, the differences now is, we used to have to go in the back door to pay guys. Now we can go through the front door. But, now it's legal. And, I don't think that's an easy answer. I don't think it's 100%. Definitive of that, but I do think there is a large part of that. I do think coaches do matter, but you're right about Cignetti. But look, when he was hired, every pundit on the planet said that was a C- or D+ hire, and all he does is have the greatest turnaround in the history of college football. So certainly, I don't think anybody could have expected Indiana to win a national title, much less get to the playoff. So I think that was a bonus. But I just think, look, the kids coming up now, they don't remember the SEC winning 13 titles in 17 years. They don't even remember probably 2 years ago. What do they remember? They remember who won last year, what's hot now, and also who's going to pay me the most. And these Big Ten schools are in a lot of bigger markets. And look, that doesn't guarantee success. Northwestern's based in Chicago or near Chicago. They're not going to win the national title. But you do have a larger alumni base. You've got more money. You've got a larger margin of error when you have more resources. And then certainly the momentum that the Big Ten has now. Now you've got people that maybe weren't really into football, weren't really into athletics at these Big Ten schools. And now it's like, oh, wait, shit, we're winning all these national titles. I want to get on board. How can I help? And now the snowball is started at the top of a mountain and it's become an avalanche.
Yeah, I was wondering about high tide raises all boats. Is that what you see happening in the Big Ten? At least a little bit?
I really do. I do. At the top of the conference, like I said, the bottom of the conference is really, really weak. And I actually just talked to somebody at an SEC school earlier today, and we were talking about my article, and they said they thought part of it is, the Big Ten doesn't get as tested week in, week out in the SEC. And I agree with that, because the bottom of the Big Ten is not very, very good. And so it's, you can kind of take a week off in the Big Ten and you don't have to worry about losing. I won't call out any of those schools, but we know who they are. We're in the SEC. Yeah. They haven't fared well in the bowls. They haven't fared well maybe in the head-to-head with the other power leagues, but we have seen, the top SEC schools go and play on the road at a supposed mid-level SEC school. And, a lot of those times they lose those games. And it's not necessarily because they played bad. It's because the middle of the conference is that good. So I do think, will the bottom of the Big Ten have to get better? You would think they would have to. But I don't think it's going to be anytime soon that the likes of Purdue and Rutgers and Michigan State are going to be up there with the Ohio States and and Oregons and Indianas of the Big Ten.
Do you think there's, I don't want to say panic, but would you, I mean, something near panic in the SEC when they don't win something for this long?
Are we to the Kevin Bacon Animal House, everyone remain calm stage?
Yeah.
Maybe not, but we're to the point where the SEC is John Belushi grabbing the guitar, coming down the stairs and banging it against the against the wall because he's so upset what's going on. I don't think it's panic, but they're and I don't want to say it's concern. That's probably overplaying it. But it's a unique situation. And again, looking forward for this year, the SEC is going to be playing 9 conference games instead of 8. Well, even with my great Oklahoma State degree, I'm smart enough to figure out that means 8 more losses for SEC teams. So how is that going to translate out? I think the SEC made a big mistake going to 9 games before the college football playoff expanded to 16. Because now you're locked into 9 games. Like I said, 8 more teams are going to have an additional loss. Is that going to be Texas and Georgia? Probably not. But still, it's going to impact the conference overall. And then we're still stuck at a 12-team playoff. I think what's been fascinating for me is you've seen Sankey talk to me and other reporters at the college football playoff meetings and different things. And look, basically everybody on the planet not named Tony Petitti wants a 16-team playoff. Yet we keep seeing, different SEC coaches, different SEC ADs come out and talk to, On3 and other media outlets and kind of say, you know what, maybe 24 is not a bad number. Well, that's something I can't remember ever happening where, leaders at SEC schools would basically come out and not basically mimic what the conference commissioner has been saying. I never saw that happen under Mike Slive. I don't think that's a slight towards Greg Sankey. I just think these coaches are in self-preservation mode, and they realize if I don't make a 12-team playoff, they're going to run, my butt out of town. But if we can get the 24-team playoff, then I can go 8-4, and I get into a playoff, and they're not going to want to chop my head off, come December.
Brett, on a similar but different topic, what did you think of the public back and forth between Cody Campbell and Brett Yormark last week?
Obviously there's something going on there between them. And I think obviously, Cody, I don't think it's like a power play. I think it probably was emotional from both guys. Part of me thinks maybe it was like a wrestling move where they're playing like enemies and then they're going to come together both off the top rope and, as tag team partners.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like everything else on social media. If that happens in season, it's like we forget about it after 5 minutes, but because there's no football going on, we've got nothing else to talk about unless you want to, talk about, who's in the Final Four or something. So, I understand Texas Tech's point of view. I also understand, Yormark and the Big 12's point of view is that like, if you don't want to play Friday games, then don't take the TV money. Texas Tech and all the other conference teams, they agreed to take the money and they agreed to play Friday night games. So you can't say we want all this money and then say, hey, you know what, we've got to. And look, they do have a special situation. I was in Odessa, Texas, my first 2 years out of school. I had the privilege of covering Mojo and Friday Night Lights. So I know what it's like as much as you guys do. And I understand it is different than anywhere else on the planet. But still, when you're one of those schools and you sign that deal and it says you will have to play Friday night games, you can't protest having to play them when your turn comes up on the roulette wheel.
It's one game. That's the other thing. Like if they had gotten what USC in the Big Ten got like 2 or 3, and I'm sure Lincoln Riley wasn't thrilled about it, but they got to do it. And Tech, it's one game. I don't understand the the arms up stress of like, how dare you do this to us? Because it's once.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, again, it is different in Texas. I remember when I was covering Permian, they were supposed to play Midland Lee one year, and Midland Lee had the game, and they wanted to move it to Permian Stadium so more people could see it. Of course, Lee's said we're not going to do it. Well, they decided to televise it, and back then they really didn't televise many games, so they had to move it to a Thursday night because there was a rule in Texas back then you couldn't televise a game if in case there was another game within a 50-mile radius. So they moved the game to Thursday night. So maybe they moved some games to Thursday night. I don't know, but I'm kind of surprised Texas Tech has pushed back as much as they have with this, but they're the kings of the Big 12 right now, so maybe they're kind of trying to throw their weight around.
Yeah, they had a great year, and they seem to have enjoyed McGuire. If you ask him, he's a former Texas high school coach, a Hall of Fame coach. So one more thing, Brett, and we appreciate you, buddy. Great to hear from you. On the last week, I forgot who it was that mentioned the Alabama AD, Greg Byrne, and now Kirby Smart on the SEC championship game. Is this from, okay, you're going to make us play 9 conference games, so now we want to eliminate that? And can they afford to eliminate that? Isn't that a huge deal? They started that tradition.
Yeah, that's a great question. The thing, as long as the playoff stays at 12, David, I think they will not get rid of the conference. Well, I'm 99.100% sure they will not get rid of the conference championship game. If and when the playoff does get to 16 or more teams, at that point, then I think, it's a very real possibility that the SEC title game does go away. The one thing, and you brought up a great point, and I didn't address it in my article, is the SEC makes about 50 to 70 million off of the SEC title game. Mm-hmm. Well, by going to a 16-team playoff, the SEC is not going to. It's not like the college football playoff is going to say, okay, here's 50 to 70 million that the SEC gets alone. Whatever money they get for the additional playoff games, that is going to be diluted down. So, will the SEC decide to go to 16 and get rid of the title game? Because, I don't know all the numbers, but potentially could they lose money by not having a conference championship game? Or will they, God forbid, take the avenue that Petitti's been politicking about, and that is, instead of having a conference championship game, have a kind of NFL-like play-in game, a wild card game, where the 4th and 5th place teams in the conference play instead of that conference title game, and the winner advances to the college football playoff. Would they consider that? I don't know, but as long as they stay at 12, they won't get rid of the title game. But I do think once they get to 16 teams in the college football playoff, I think, again, if financially it decides everything in college football, but I would think that it would probably go away, not only in the SEC, but pretty much everyone else.
Thank you, buddy. Great to see you. And we'll hope to see you at one or two or so of the media days coming up when we get to the summer. Appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your spring.
Will do. Definitely see you in Dallas, guys.
Absolutely. Thanks. Brett McMurphy with us on 3 with the story about the SEC has fallen and they can't get up. It doesn't mean that they're dead in the water. It just means that they're seeing somebody else have that kind of success that not really anyone else has had.
I know that there's a lot of, this is an overreaction by people who think the SEC's not just going to turn around and win some titles here in the very near future. And I think there's probably something to that. What the SEC fans have to realize is that there were a lot of people waiting on this for 2 decades.
Yeah.
We're waiting for them to not be just clearly dominant in football and have the stranglehold that they had when Saban was leading the charge. And so, you take Saban out of the equation, and that changes up a lot of different things, and just the domino effect of that. Like Kirby Smart loses some of his superpower not going up against Saban to some degree, right? Like the whole conference takes a little bit of a lesser step back. But I think that for the SEC, it's just a matter of the right team at the right time, and they'll be back there. But the Big Ten now having the ability to just go, all right, we'll pull our resources together and put our brands with those resources out there and see what can happen. I mean, you're seeing that, yeah, they have every bit of the swagger and the ability to put this all together as the SEC had, and it's just very interesting to track.
Can we go? Okay, I agree. I just think it's great to just see someone rise up and go, hey, we want a piece of this too.
Yeah. It's just interesting to see. Like I said, that for 20 years there was one league that seemingly dominated the sport, and now that's not the case. And it's not the case in that one sport, but now it's spreading out of like, oh, now the Big Ten's winning basketball. Oh, now who's this team's or this conference is doing that, and we don't quite know what awaits on the other side. But there's a really good chance in about 20 years we're bitching about the Big Ten the same way we were about the SEC. Or this is just going to be a free-for-all where it just ebbs and flows, and that's kind of where my money is. This is a brief time where I do think the Big Ten is going to be very successful, but I think it's a wild time that nobody can really predict moving forward perfectly.
All right, we are joined by Mark Daniels, voice of UCF Athletics. Baseball going on. They're rolling in the Big 12, but also spring football is about a week into it. And one of our favorite guests, Mark Daniels, joins us on 365 Sports. Mark, thank you very much. I know you got to get out of here in about 12 to 15 minutes, so we'll make sure we do that. I know it's only been a week into spring, but have you noticed much of anything different with Scott Frost this second tenure and a year into it? All right.
I think he froze.
Okay, let's break. Let's take a break. We'll come back with Mark Daniels of UCF, voice of the Knights. This is 365 Sports. The Baylor Club, tonight's Tuesday. Sizzling fajitas is the special that they have there for you. Weekly traditions every night from when they're open. You know, like Friday night, they have steak and shrimp, or lobster and prime rib on Saturday. From fajitas to prime rib, weekly dinner plans are covered, and also you can order and pick that up and take it home if you want to. Nick Caldwell, the general manager, they have renovated the Baylor Club. It looks fantastic. We'll have a banquet there in about a month or so with the about a month with the academic all-stars. Great food, the amenities, all of what they've done. They've brightened it. It looks more spacious. Everything is new around whatever you see when the walls, the windows, and everything else, and great top chefs. Memberships available. Tell them 365 Sports sent you to the Baylor Club inside McLean Stadium off I-35 in Waco.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide. Affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
When you play hard, sometimes you fall hard. Sports injuries require special treatment. At Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, our team of expert doctors provides athletes and active adults with comprehensive sports medicine care, diagnostics. Whether you're in high school, college, or beyond, we'll help you get back on the field. call on the team physicians for Baylor Athletics. Call Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics.
I pitched in the major leagues for 24 years, and let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
From the TFNB Your Bank for Life studio, this is 365 Sports. Presented by IdealMRI.com. Premium quality MRIs, convenient, affordable. That's ideal. And by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance. We are Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, your insurance provider built by Texans for Texans. And we've been protecting families in our great state since 1952. TFNB, your bank for life, serving Central Texans since 1889. Now it's time for 365 Sports.
Here we go. The voice of UCF Athletics, Mark Daniels, with us on 365 Sports with Craig and Paul. David Smoak. Mark, thank you very much for your time. Have you seen, at least in year two now, in the second era, any changes that are noticeable with Scott Frost?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think Scott feels like he's had a full off season to prepare for a portal class. When Scott got hired last year, guys, the portal was about to open, decisions had already been made, and he was scrambling. And it's not that UCF didn't have some good players, but by the time they started making contact with guys, you're talking about second, third level players that were looking for a place to play. I think Scott felt like now he and his staff were able to prepare for the portal season, hit the ground running, have an idea about what they were able to bring back, about an idea about what they needed to add. And I think we're in a much better position to go out and attack the portal. I think Scott feels like the team's in better shape. I think he feels like he's got a better grasp as to the type of team he needs after going through a year in the Big 12. And they went out and found a quarterback. Alonzo Barnett played at James Madison, took him to the college football playoff. So I think he feels like they're in better shape as they embark on year two. For what Scott believes is going to be a better season. They were close in a number of games last year. I think he feels like they're in a better position this year to go and compete.
How much better is that just by the obvious fact that there's a quarterback and not three guys who might be?
Yeah, guys, the last quarterback to play a healthy season at UCF was Dylan Gabriel as an underclassman.
Man.
And that's before he stopped at Oklahoma and then at Oregon and then to the NFL. So that was a challenge for Gus. When he was here to keep a quarterback healthy, it was a challenge last year for Scott to not have any consistency. And I don't care what program you are, if you've got a revolving door because of injuries or insufficient play, you're going to struggle, especially playing in the Big 12. So, they went out and got a quarterback with experience, 2 years as a starter. I think a guy athletically that fits into what Scott wants to do, that can extend the play, that can be a run threat when you need. So that's going to help. He's got to stay healthy like anybody, but I think that was a big key for UCF the last couple of years. So if you can keep a quarterback healthy, I think Scott feels like the offense is going to be much better alone there. Then add some pieces, particularly up front, where they had to get better on the offensive line so that they can have a better season.
Mark, what do you make of all the attention Malachi Lawrence is getting when it comes to the NFL draft? And they got some guys taken from them and still had a really solid defensive front, but now some guys graduating like Lawrence and Nigel Kelly. What's kind of the expectation there, replacing them, and also your thoughts, like I said, on them moving on to the NFL draft?
Yeah, bear with me on the voice. I lost my voice for several days, but I think Malachi's got a chance to be a guy that I think goes to the second round. Who knows how the last couple of weeks are going to go here. But he came off at the end of the season last year. I thought played at a high level. He's in great shape. I think he's got a chance to make a team really happy when he gets to the NFL. Nigel Kelly is the guy with tremendous upside. And if he could stay healthy, he's going to help somebody, I think, in the NFL too. The key for him is, can he stay healthy? I think another year may have been really good for him, but he's going to get a chance, I think, someone to play. I think this year for UCF, they bring back some guys. Isaiah Nixon came on strong for them last year. I think he's going to take a step up. Sincere Edwards is a kid that played locally here in Orlando, went to Pitt, transferred back to UCF, was starting to really develop, then got hurt last season, but he's going to come back healthy this year, and they added some pieces. So I think, again, that defensive front for UCF is going to be the strong point. Their secondary, I think, is going to be really good. Horace Lockett's a guy that played briefly last year up front, got hurt, and I think they were happy to get him back. He thought he'd enter the portal, but chose to come back. Big guy, a 6'4", 340 type guy that can clog up that D line. So I think their front, their secondary is going to be pretty good. The question is at linebacker, what will they have?
Mark, and we do appreciate you. You told me last week that you'd lost your voice, so we won't keep you for very long, and I know you got other things to get done. With UCF, have they kind of like sometimes the foundation when you're building something, whether it's the dirt, the concrete, the whatever, it has to settle. Do you feel like that's kind of where UCF might be with football now that they've been a part of the conference for just a little bit?
Yeah, I think so. I think, the coaching change, obviously, I think makes you a press reset again. But I think what's happened to UCF and Gus did this, I think Scott now in his second year, you've learned how this league has evolved, and you guys know it far better than me. It used to be all offense and prey on defense. Now you got teams that can really play defense in this league. You got to be physical. You got to be able to run the football late in the football game. You got to get a pass rush. And I think in other conversations I had with you guys over the years, when you say everything in the American, they were able to out-athlete people. They were able to outrun people in the American. In the Big 12, now everybody's got athletes. Everybody's got guys that can run. Everybody's got, strength. So it's taken a while to figure out how to get all the offensive linemen, stability at quarterback like we talked about. And I think you had a better idea about how the portal can work for UCF, where you can still tap into the athletes that want to come back to Florida that maybe went someplace else, where you can then take some guys that maybe we're not starting somewhere else that, you feel like you can develop into a starter. So, yeah, David, I think they got a better idea about what it takes. I think Scott feels like that, he's learned the league a little bit more now. And, we go back, it's health. And last year, UCF had a number of injuries that really derailed them that I think was the difference in some of those close games that instead of going 5-7, maybe you go 7-5, maybe you go 8-4, and you build some momentum. So I think they feel like they're ready for the next step, which hopefully gets them towards that middle of the pack and then in position to, compete with teams in the upper part of the conference.
Mark, I thought he was, I don't want to use the word surly, but a little bit sad at media days because he knew he was going to have to talk about Nebraska a lot. How much do you think just starting the season without having to address that anymore because it's been addressed will help him just mentally be adjusted to, okay, all the questions about the past are in the past?
No question about it. I think that and Scott didn't really deal with a lot of that after, the media days and start of the season. But look, it's another year that he's further removed of that. Nebraska's dealing with their own stuff. And I think Scott, and I really mean this, not the football coach, Scott, the husband, the father, the person, really enjoys being back in Orlando. It brings him back to a place of peace. He can walk around in the city and people recognize him, but it's not the same as maybe with the pressure initially at Nebraska. His kids are getting older now. Being able to go watch his son go out and play sports and just be a dad. I think all those things that help balance Scott's life. I still think he's, like any football coach, you're locked in on that. But balance is important to him. So I think he's in a much better place mentally, personally. It's helped him as a football coach. They went through adversity by, having the sad news of losing a coach last year. So I think a lot of that took its toll on Scott, but I think he's in a much better place. I think he really likes his coaching staff this year. And he loves Orlando. And I think that has helped lay the foundation. He looks around, he sees construction of a $92 million tower that'll be done when the season starts. He sees other upgrades that he knows are important. But he also likes when he gets to the office, and most days it's 80 degrees and sunny, and let's go to work. So I think absolutely he's in a better place this year than he was last year, where everything happened so quickly.
You got to go. You got baseball's 10-2.
No, we got rained out. We're good. I got, as long as you need me, I'm good. We got rained out tonight.
I wanted to ask you, they're 10-2. They're playing really well. They're winning and leading the Big 12 by a game over a couple of others. There's a bunch in the mid-level, like almost in football. Is this a surprise?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit better than people thought. 2 years ago, UCF went to a regional final, lost in Tallahassee up there against Florida State. Last year had a couple of injuries and just, some of those close games they weren't winning and missed the tournament. I think Rich Wallace in his third year felt like he did a good job in the portal, bringing some guys in. This team has hit better than people have thought. We've been hit by injuries. Right now we're missing 2 starters and probably will be without them for the season. So we're thin on starting pitching, but those guys pitch great at West Virginia. Really hard place to go play and win. Hitting the ball well right now and in a good spot. And after playing a 1-2 series, first and second place against West Virginia, we go to Lawrence, and they're just as hot right now. They're 9-3 in second place. Another big road series for them. But in a good place right now with the baseball team ranked 12th in a D1 and playing with some confidence and momentum. I'm not saying the rain out helped today, but I think it does in a way to help save some arms for the weekend because you got to go on the road. But it's been a really good season for UCF. Some big series lie ahead. But I think they're in a good place. And before you start thinking about things like hosting a regional, you just got to keep winning series in the Big 12 because every team's capable of beating you. But it's been a good start for them, no question.
Hey, man, we'll let you go. We love having you on, Mark. Great to see you again, and good luck with the voice. Thank you.
All right, guys, anytime. Thank you. Take care.
Okay, thank you. Mark Daniels, voice of UC Athletics, with us on 365 Sports.
A lot of teams go to Tallahassee to lose. It's fine.
In baseball.
Yeah, in that sport.
Yeah.
I was just mentioned Johnny Dawkins and then UCF basketball having a good little run as well. So, to lock him down and to have that, and then baseball performing well. I think football is really interesting because they certainly made an upgrade at quarterback. There's not even a question about that. I mean, that's undeniable that they're better at quarterback this year than they were last year. But they produce a lot of individually talented guys. They lose Lee Hunter last year to Tech and still had a very effective defensive front and still had some really talented players and guys like Malachi Lawrence. Not that every D-line position's all the same and whatnot, but still just to have your big dudes up front. Some teams would be really crippled by losing to Lee Hunter. As good as look, he was really damn good, really damn good. And then they didn't really skip much of a beat. I mean, they were in a lot of close games. They just feel like they're a touch away from being a bowl team, surefire, and then maybe a couple more moves away from being more of a in the mix type of a team. But I'm really intrigued by them this year because Scott Frost does have a chance to actually breathe and put this team together. And the quarterback position alone just makes me think they're going to be a far more dangerous team. Now, they've got questions as far as the guys blocking for him. So how much does that negate the upgrade is a big question mark, I think, into 2026 season. But UCF's very intriguing as far as just kind of where they find themselves in the middle of the mix. And if Barnett turns out to be as big of an upgrade as we think, then that's the difference in maybe winning a couple more games. And then that's the difference in being in a much different place as far as how you're kind of viewing the whole program and their place. But last year, really nice start. I mean, even beat North Carolina like a drum, and then it just all fell apart in the Big 12. I mean, but let's see, 7-point loss to Kansas, single-digit 9-point loss to Cincinnati on the road, 3-point loss to Houston, had the close win over Oklahoma State, but they also had some games where they just got blown out. Now, they were playing BYU in Provo, Texas Tech in Lubbock. They got beat up badly by Baylor and Waco. And we know they weren't very good, but yeah, they're a crapshoot because I feel like you can definitely see the improvement. But what does that entail? Does that mean 6 wins in a bowl game? I think it does this year. I think that anything short of that would be pretty big disappointment given the investment at QB and given how much better you expect that to be. And the fact that if it was better last year, you probably do win a 6th or a 7th game at some point. So that's kind of my bare minimum opinion on UCF next year is it needs to be, it should be a bowl game. And if you do that, then I think you can say, all right, that was a positive step forward.
Yeah, it was so when we were at Big 12 Media Days, and I'll be off the radar next. We'll have Austin Meek on Michigan's national title a little after 5. He was so awkward, Scott Frost.
Very awkward.
Very almost jittery.
Uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable is probably a better word. A little bit and a lot of it was knowing he was going to get asked questions, didn't like it about Nebraska. He could have answered each one of them every time and moved on. He almost made it more uncomfortable that people were going to ask him, just like if we asked Gus Malzahn about being at Auburn when he went to UCF or whatever. He just really made it even, I think, more difficult for himself. And hopefully this year he'll be much more at ease. All right, when we come back, Off the Radar. And after that, we'll have Austin Meek on Michigan's national title. We have the polls that are going up inside the chat room. Hopefully you take care of your vote. We'll have all the results at the end. And this is 365 Sports. My dentist is Dr. Steve Childress, Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas. And there are a chunk of dentists that they have inside the building. I just love the guy. First of all, he's a really good friend of mine. And second of all, he and I've shared stories about life and about dentistry and how he has just made this business. It's phenomenal. When I go in there, I feel like I'm the only one there, even though there are a bunch of other patients, customers. I feel like when I go in there, whether it's a tooth that needs to be maybe pulled or maybe just corrected or a possibility of just a cavity or a root canal, it doesn't scare me. It doesn't mean it's comfortable as far as I don't know what dentists do now. I know there's a lot of different ways to numb your jaw, to numb your lip, to numb your whatever. He does it, and it's like, I don't feel anything. Where before I was petrified of a needle going inside my jaw. Not that I want to see that, but I do want to see him when I have dental work that I need to be fixed or checked. And then, of course, every 6 months, regular teeth cleaning. He's got me in a routine. He's a great dude, fantastic dentist. He has done trauma dentistry before with our military. Dr. Steve Childress and his staff at Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas.
It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Declaration of Deals is at Allen Samuels in Waco. Get $11,000 off a new Ram 1500 Lone Star, plus 2.9% for 72 months. And America's best full-size truck powertrain 10-year 100,000-mile limited warranty at Allen Samuels in Waco.
This 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Financial Advisors, Ben Erlinson and Brad Wilson in Waco, and Cam Heathcott in Conroe, with an individualized approach to addressing your financial needs, including education, savings, planning for retirement, and protection strategies. Edward Jones Financial Advisors, making sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Now it's time for 365 Sports. It's time for Craig Smoak's Off the Radar.
Welcome in. Thanks for being a part of the show. And here we are now, heading into the 5 o'clock hour with a time to stop down and talk a little off the radar. And that means some topics that are just a little bit off the beaten path. And certainly Didn't know how often I'd be talking about Willie Nelson in this segment, but that's where we're going to start today. And not with really any big story, quite frankly. This is something that was just passed over to me, but it's worth talking about for a couple minutes here. Willie Nelson and family have announced that they will be performing at Baylor University's Magnolia Field, which I need to double check. Is that the baseball field?
Yeah.
The baseball field, Baylor Ballpark, now known as Magnolia Field, and he will be doing so here in about 5 weeks from now on May the 14th. Willie Nelson and family in concert. He's got another album, new album coming out, Dream Chaser, on May the 29th. This man is 92 years old. I saw him in like 2001 at the Oil Palace in Tyler, Texas. And if you would have asked like 17-year-old Craig or whatever that would have been at that point in time of like, or you would have told that version, like, hey, in 2026, Willie Nelson at 92 is going to still be touring and doing all this. I'd have been like, nah. But then again, it's Willie. So you know what? I might have been like, yeah, I can totally see that. But yeah, man, for those in the Waco area or those on other stops along this tour of his, Magnolia Field. That's an interesting choice.
Hey,
for
listen,
the venue.
I'm very happy for Baylor for picking such a marijuana forward entertainer.
Well, and he does have he's from Abbott originally. That he enrolled at Baylor and dropped out. Is that what the story was?
Yeah, I mean, he went here for.
He did not graduate.
He went here for a time.
He went there for a spurt.
Yes.
Is that what we want to say?
Have you ever seen his first television appearance? Where he's wearing a suit and has no beard and he has short hair?
Oh, I think I've seen it.
Yeah, I've seen the picture.
Yeah, I the first time I saw it, I was like, oh.
Okay.
I wonder what happened right after that. He walked out of the studio and somebody said, hey, you need to relax.
Yeah.
And then like the braids grew.
Well, he walked outside and there's a couple of dudes outside smoking something. He's like, oh, that smells funny. What's that? And they're like, your life's about to change, man. And then the rest is history. But no, yeah, he actually attended Baylor for a couple years and dropped out because he was having a lot of success in music at that point. So I think it's safe to say that if anybody in his family is like, no, get your college degree, that he made the right choice and he did just fine for himself. But yeah, he did attend Baylor for a couple years. So now he's winding his way back. And yeah, it's a different time, man. There's some, like, Willie wouldn't have been accepted with past leadership groups probably at different points in time for that school. But yeah, Baylor Ballpark, not the McLean Stadium venue like we're seeing with like Posty and some of the other concerts. But hey, Willie's coming to Waco and he's been here plenty of times before. I just think it's cool. He's 92 years old. That's insane.
I don't think he's playing stadiums anymore.
Okay,
I think
fair enough.
it's too big. And like I will tell you this: you don't want to see Willie Nelson in a stadium.
No,
you want to see Willie Nelson in a more intimate venue. I've seen him 4 times in my life. The thing I've learned, and I'll tell this to anybody who wants to go, don't go hoping he plays because he has a billion songs. So don't get your heart set on one that is not either fairly new or one he has to play. So, like, if there's one, I wanted to hear him sing Redheaded Stranger live 4 times, never heard him do it. And just because he has so many songs, you can't just be like, oh, well, this one's in the middle of the catalog. He may not do it. But yeah, I'm super excited about it. I'll see if the wife would like to go. We were actually, his son Lucas Nelson is coming to the Hippodrome right after that or before, and we're going to that one. So also a huge fan of his.
You ever hear the story about Willie Nelson, Earl Campbell's house in the pool in the backyard?
No.
His mom was there, came walking out to the back door, saw Earl in the pool and with somebody else in the pool with long hair, and she started scolding him. Earl! And it was Willie Nelson. It was Willie Nelson.
Yeah, but that was pretty shocking, thinking that Earl's up to no good, and then, yeah, the guy turns around and there's Willie freaking Nelson.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this new album coming out, he's got almost 200 albums. So yeah, he's not going to be able to play every song that he's ever done, or the odds of you hearing your favorite song are a bit difficult. Let's see, as of early 2025, 77 to 78 studio albums alone. Yeah, and there's, if you count collabs and things like that, you can get close to 200 as far as the albums go. So I just thought that was pretty cool. And yeah, that's May 14th, Baylor Magnolia Field, the Baylor ballpark. And I say that about McLean, and that's just because for those who are unaware, which is probably most people, like they've just now with new leadership have started to embrace doing things a little bit differently. And so, for example, you got Post Malone's coming to McLean Stadium to perform, which I never in a million years would have thought something like that would be happening, but it is. And they have started to actually do what they probably should have been doing all along and having big events at their big venues. So it's good to see that that's picking up a little bit, not just for the football side, but now baseball's getting a show. And then I know that the basketball arena can host things, but you're right about Willie and a more intimate. I saw him at the Oil Palace, which at this point is like, I mean, it's a shell of what it was. And even when it was in action during my prime years, it was still a dump, but it's historic. And it's now, I think, it's changed ownership and been foreclosed on all these things.
The Manziels aren't running it
They
anymore?
haven't for a long time. Like that's, I mean, I don't know the whole situation. I just know that like they got foreclosed on, I think, the Old Palace. But nevertheless, it is an intimate venue. It's like just a few thousand seats, and that's where I saw Willie. And unlike most concerts, so they're just like the whole dance floor's open, and then you have the bleachers. Like he had very specific seating for the older folks, and then your kind of general section. But it was still very. It wasn't big in pomp and circumstance. It was like Willie and his guitar on the stage and people as close as they could possibly be, and it was awesome.
It was going to once host a Jack Dempsey heavyweight fight.
Oh, wow.
That was one of the reasons they opened it. It did not happen, though.
2001 was when he was in his IRS payback phase, spent all his tax money on ganj. But he was playing anywhere that would have him. And
he played there a few times.
Pretty much just like that, which I know sounds kind of crazy, but if you got to see him, the first time I got to see him was here in Waco at a small place too with my dad, and it was just him and his guitar, for about an hour and a half, maybe. I mean, it wasn't a long concert, but man, it was one heck of a way to see a legend. I mean, an absolute legend, and he's still revered as that. So it's pretty awesome that he's coming in.
I agree.
Yeah, so it's cool. Willie Nelson, Baylor, Magnolia Field, May the 14th for those who may be interested in that. So not too far away, 5 weeks away from that. Meanwhile, just a couple of other notes. Fernando Mendoza, widely expected to be the number 1 overall pick in the draft, has told the NFL he will not be attending the festivities. He will be instead doing his own thing. And it's not often the number 1 pick, but I guess it's happened where number 1 picks aren't always there. But, I mean, he's going to be going to the Raiders as the first overall guy. So he visited the Raiders on Tuesday. And he now joins a list of Travon Walker wasn't there for the draft. Trevor Lawrence wasn't there in 2021. Baker Mayfield wasn't there in 2018, which we were at that. Or no, was that Kyler?
That was at AT&T Stadium.
Yeah, so Baker wasn't there. And then,
Baker was at AT&T Stadium, yeah.
But he wasn't there, apparently, is what I'm saying.
I don't remember if he was there or not.
So he probably wasn't there.
Yeah.
And then 2017, Myles Garrett also didn't do it. So, just he's going to instead do his own thing and be in Miami with family, according to Adam Schefter, rather than in Pittsburgh where they are holding the draft this year.
Look, if you're a Miami person, and look, he's gonna be fine living in Vegas, but Miami people love that city. I mean, they love it. The only place I think I can compare it to is Houston, where people from Houston like really, really, really love being from Houston. People from Miami are the same way. And if you're like, hey, would you like to be in Miami for this big event in your life? Or would you like to be in Pittsburgh? I'm sure a kid like Fernando Mendoza is like, oh man, I'm sure Pittsburgh's great, but Miami's where my heart is. And so that's where he's going to be. So it doesn't surprise me. I mean, Miami people are super Miami. So that's where he's going to be. Not a big deal. I mean, you're only there as a pick for like a day. And I would rather, I like maybe 2.
Yeah, if you're a first rounder, they usually kind of wine and dine you the Wednesday or Thursday, have a few events, but the day.
But here's the thing. He knows, like, most of those people don't always know exactly where they're going to go. So why not go to Pittsburgh and have a good time? He knows that as soon as they say Fernando Mendoza, quarterback Indiana, he's going to have to go up there, hold up his jersey, do a quick little media thing, and then he's going to be on a flight to Vegas. So I'd rather just be on a flight to Vegas from Miami as soon as possible.
That's the big thing, is you just feel like you're missing the big picture with the commissioner on stage.
Yeah.
But besides that, you get immediately thrown into a throng of media and like a gauntlet of that. So he'll still have to do that, but he can just do it more on his own terms and not be at the mercy of kind of the machine they build up there at the site. So Fernando Mendoza will be watching from back in Miami, and we will see him very quickly and then move on to the rest of the draft. Meanwhile, a couple of other stories. We talked about this a little bit yesterday, but Dawn Staley has come out to say that she has spoken with Gino Auriemma and is suggesting that everyone turn the page after their little mid-court argument this past weekend, where her and Gino got into it, and Gino afterwards basically said that it was his fault and that he crossed the line. But Dawn Staley said in a statement, "I spoke with Gino. I want to be clear. I have a great deal of respect for him and what he's meant to this game. One moment doesn't define a career, and it doesn't change the impact he's had on growing women's basketball. The standard at Yukon is what it is because of him, and that's something this game has benefited from. So I'm asking everyone to turn the page. Let's refocus on what matters most, continuing to elevate our game, creating opportunities, and pushing it forward. That's always been my mission, and it's not changing." So they have squashed their little beef from over the weekend.
I had completely forgotten until I saw a clip. It was Candace Parker was on the All the Smoke podcast talking about Pat Summitt and Gino. And they had a very intense rivalry. At one point, they played each other in a championship or in a Final Four. And the question was asked to Gino or to Pat, if you were on the side of the road and Gino was driving by and you were out of gas, would you accept his help? And she was like, "Yeah, I guess." And then he was like, "No, I'd walk."
There was a time when she said
I don't remember that
something.
one as much. Like you said, I don't remember that as much.
They didn't. And one time she called him out. This is when he started to win. And it was about, I think, recruiting and maybe not, I don't know about tampering because it wasn't. And she basically said, Gino knows. Gino knows. He knows. And that's all she said, but it spoke 1,000 words.
Yeah. Well, they put it behind them. And I don't think he came across well when you started to understand kind of what was going on. We talked about it a little bit yesterday, but both of them ended up short when it came to the ultimate goal. UCLA wins the national title. And that's the team that was waving the banner, which is all that matters there at the end. But I know for the big fans of women's basketball, like that was juicy stuff right there, man. Like Gino and Dawn getting into it is like, oh boy. But now it's cooled off tremendously. This is from a few days ago, but I thought it was just cool to mention the Wrigley Field Big Ten SEC volleyball doubleheader. Have you guys heard about this? So Wrigley Field's going to host a women's college volleyball doubleheader, a Big Ten SEC volleyball challenge in September. The conference has announced that Nebraska will play Missouri, Penn State will play Kentucky at Wrigley Field on September 6th. Matchups between Big Ten and SEC programs will be played at home sites starting on September 1st, but then it will culminate at Wrigley Field. And what Tony Petitti called one of the most iconic venues in the country as women's volleyball participation, sponsorship, attendance, and viewership continue to grow. We look forward to providing the unique opportunity to showcase the exceptional competition. So first time ever volleyball played at Wrigley Field. Both the matches, obviously it's outdoors, so that'll be unique to it, but both will be broadcast on Fox. So, that's pretty cool. It'll be, like I said, Nebraska, Missouri, Penn State, Kentucky at Wrigley Field on September the 6th. And Nebraska's done the outdoors thing, and that's probably what spawned this idea, actually, was how much success they had doing the home volleyball matchup at Memorial Stadium. So, that's pretty cool. And it's one of those, there's so many ideas that are floating out of people trying to expand the games and do all this, and some of them fall flat, but I think it's kind of cool.
I think it's cool. I do think our big whiff when we were in Chicago for the draft, and maybe they weren't in town, but was not being able to get over to Wrigley, because once it is one of those stadiums, and you guys have never been there, right?
No.
To Wrigley. When you walk into Wrigley, it's like walking into a cathedral. Like you almost feel like you got a genuflect. Like, you feel it. You feel it. So it's really cool, and it's a great venue for everything. It's also just a really cool neighborhood around there in Wrigley Town.
Just like the White Sox neighborhood, right?
Yeah. I like the fact that a tradition-rich championship program played on Nebraska's football field. at least once.
Yes. Just thank God for the volleyball team to bring some winning to Memorial Stadium. But no, I'll leave it there because we have a guest coming up. But there's a few things off the radar.
Craig, if you want the full Shameless the television series experience, you just go to a White Sox game.
You go to a White Sox.
That's what you do. That's what you do. Yeah.
Hey, Emmy Rossum has me tempted to watch, but I have not gone that way. Jeremy Allen White to a lesser extent for different reasons. But yeah, no. That's funny that you say that.
We're going to get Austin Meek. Who's the outfielder that snagged 3 home runs?
Joe Adele.
Okay, yeah,
Joe
unbelievable.
Adele.
I can't really
Yeah.
Hey, there was a guy that snagged 3 home runs last night.
If you
They
didn't
can't
hear
really show
about
it
over the weekend, the third one, the first two were okay. The third one was literally like that one World Series game where some guy went crashing into the stands. It was phenomenal.
You would have thought he would have gotten tired by the third one.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was.
Yeah.
No, it's just amazing. The odds of that are so small. That probably will never happen again while we're all here. It could, but just the odds of it are very, very low that you have those types of catches, that amount of them in the same time frame.
They
That's
have
just
to be
pretty crazy.
to right field. Torrey Hunter always was a guy that was great about Ken Griffey Jr., but how about Adele, what he did in that game?
In other baseball news, the Red Sox suck.
Yeah, the Rangers lost 3 straight at home to the Reds. When we come back, Austin Meek, theathletic.com on Michigan, the men's basketball team. What a run it was. He's next. This is 365 Sports. Tennis and fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed. World-class tennis facility and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Declaration of Deals is at Allen Samuels in Waco. Get $11,000 off a new Ram 1500 Lone Star, plus 2.9% for 72 months. And America's best full-size truck powertrain 10-year 100,000-mile limited warranty at Allen Samuels in Waco.
This 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Financial Advisors, Ben Erlinson and Brad Wilson in Waco, and Cam Heathcott in Conroe, with an individualized approach to addressing your financial needs, including education, savings, planning for retirement, and protection strategies. Edward Jones Financial Advisors, making sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Now it's time for 365 Sports.
We opened the show, as you can imagine, with Michigan winning the men's national championship. They were a battering ram, buzzsaw, whatever, slugging Arizona, and then what they did to control Yukon and just have more. We're joined by Austin Meek, theathletic.com, as the Big Ten continues to have one hell of a run. They're on a heater. Austin, thank you very much for your time. I know football in Michigan winning, 3 years ago or so, was monstrous. How would you compare what this means to Ann Arbor with the men's basketball title?
Well, Michigan is known as a football school. I think it'll always be known as a football school. But there's a lot else going on at Michigan. Both of the basketball program, men's and women's basketball, made runs. The hockey program is in the Frozen Four. So Michigan across the board, I mean, it's a really good time to be a Michigan fan. And a lot of that has to do with what Dusty May has done with that men's basketball program, taking over a team that was 8-24 just 2 years ago, got the team to the Sweet 16 last year and cut down the nets in year 2. I don't think anybody, even the most optimistic Michigan fan, would not have predicted that when Dusty May was hired. So pretty remarkable run that they've had the last couple of years.
Austin, does Dusty May, I mean, he already had a lot of resources, but after you win a title, does the check get somehow even blanker?
Well, I noticed that Michigan's collective is charging admission to come to the celebration, the national championship celebration that they're going to have on Saturday. So they must already be in the process of raising money for the next Michigan team. Look, Michigan is in a position that a lot of schools around the country would like to be in. They're one of the heavyweights in the Big Ten, which is right now the heavyweight conference in college sports. So they certainly have the resources to back up their success. But it's one thing to have the resources. It's another thing to be able to use them to put together a team like Michigan put together. And there's a lot of schools that spent a lot of money and didn't get the return that Michigan got this season.
Austin, why was Dusty May able to be the first coach in so long? I mean, obviously there's factors like being able to put together your roster a certain type of way, but you also have to do that correctly. But why was he the guy to kind of bring this all together in your mind?
I think Dusty May has really mastered this new era of college sports as well as any college basketball coach can. He's been at the forefront of being able to embrace the transfer portal and be smart in spending money on players who contribute to winning. He identified players who weren't playing a lot at other schools. Guys like Adai Mara, who was coming off the bench at UCLA, came in and became the starting center at Michigan and was really, I think, the catalyst for this team to be so dominant. And then you add in on top of that a guy like Yaxel Lindeborg, who everybody in the country knew who he was and wanted him. Michigan was able to get him, and he was the guy that put it over the top. So just really, I think, really shrewd roster management by Dusty May. On top of that, great coaching. Has a great feel for managing players and egos, and put it all together in a way that all the pieces just fit together pretty seamlessly.
I think, am I right, Austin? You watched the game at Scorekeepers in Ann Arbor?
I was around in a few different places last night. I was out at Chrysler Arena for the watch party. I was out downtown after the game where the celebration was happening. So I was all over the place last night.
I saw burning couches like old West Virginia lore. I saw a hand. For the most part, there's been times some of these championship night of can get a little bit out of hand. Was it for the most part just people really happy and somewhat controlled?
Yeah, I would say it was college kids having fun. A few things probably got out of hand a little bit, but overall it was I think good, clean fun. College students having a night that they're probably going to remember for the rest of their lives. But some of them may not remember it, but a lot of them will.
Austin, Elliot Cadeau back next year. I mean, yes, they're losing Yaxel Lindeborg and a couple others, but really, a lot of the core of this team will be back next year, more than likely, unless there's some sort of, portal exodus that sometimes happens at schools. But they're really going to be able to hit the ground running, aren't they?
Yeah, it certainly feels like this thing is set up to not just be a one-year wonder for Michigan with Dusty May. It feels like they're set up to be good going into the future. You mentioned some guys coming back. Trey McKinney was a really big part of this team as a freshman. Coming back as a sophomore is going to be even better. Obviously, some guys with some NBA decisions to make. We'll see what Adai Mara does. We'll see what Morez Johnson does. But they have a 5-star freshman coming in Brandon McCoy, who just committed the other night. So I think this team will be maybe not at the level of this year's Michigan team, because we may not see that again for a while, but certainly a competitive team coming back that could very well be in the mix to get back to the Final Four.
Austin, while we have you, I wanted to also ask you about what spring ball has been like for Michigan with the big turnover to Kyle Whittingham. Really interesting how it all played out and eventually landed on him. And just what's been kind of the thought process? What's the feel like around the program now with this change and him now leading the charge?
I think there's just a sense of relief around the program after everything that happened in December with Sharon Moore getting fired and all the turmoil that surrounded that. Just to have somebody in charge like Kyle Whittingham, who's such a competent coach, has won so many games in his career, and it's just a sense of having an adult in charge of the program again, which I think has been a relief to a lot of Michigan fans. It's kind of taken a back seat to the basketball program, which is tough to do at Michigan. It's tough to upstage the football program, but this Michigan basketball team has done that this spring. But fans turn the page pretty quickly. Basketball season's over now. The Michigan spring game is coming up in a couple weeks, and fans are going to be really locked into that. So I think there's going to be excitement building between now and the start of the football season to see what Kyle Whittingham can do with this roster.
Based on them needing a new coach because of how last season ended, I kind of get a feeling that the Kyle Whittingham being somewhat nudged out of Utah, maybe even more than pushed, is it almost as if he fell in their lap and is a perfect match for the personality of Michigan football?
I mean, the way it all worked out, I think a lot of Michigan fans would say, you didn't want any of the stuff that happened in December to happen, obviously. I mean, it was a nightmare in a lot of ways. But Michigan came out of it probably in a better place than they were before. To go through that and to come out of it with a coach who's, won as many games as anybody out there, a Hall of Fame coach who clearly is very motivated to show that he's still got something left in the tank. I think Michigan fans feel like they came out of this in a better place, which is, about all you could hope for given where this program was just a couple months ago.
Before they found out everything about Sharon Moore, the vibe around him seemed awful anyway, from the fans' perspective. And sometimes, from the outside looking in, you can say, well, that's just because he's not Jim Harbaugh and they're not as good as they were 2 years ago. But this felt more real than just that. Before even all that came out, did you feel this was going to end pretty quickly?
Yeah, there were definitely some warning signs with Sharon Moore that, the program was slipping, the culture of the program was slipping. I was concerned about where this program was headed. I think a lot of people were, but it was sort of like waiting to see, is the bottom going to drop out of this thing? Because part of it is, with Michigan, with the resources they have and the players they can get, you ought to win 9 games every year at Michigan just on the strength of your ability to get talent there. But there certainly were signs that Sharon Moore was not going to be the coach to get this program over the top, to win a national championship at Michigan, to win a Big Ten championship at Michigan, given the strength of the Big Ten right now. So I'm not shocked to see what happened with Sharon Moore. I mean, parts of it obviously were shocking, but there certainly had been signs with Sharon Moore that things were slipping in the program. And then when the bottom fell out, it fell out very quickly.
That run for basketball, Austin, they were 7 in the country when they started the year. They lost 3 games by a total of 11 or 12 points. They are grown ass men. And I mean, what he did, I know it was a roster that cost some money, but I get conflicting reports. Was it a highly rated class, or was it one where he pieced together guys that were it needed a little fresh change or a change of scenery?
Well, I think it was a mix of both. I think that's what made this team so successful, is that it was the guy like Yaxel Lindeborg, who everybody knew was going to be a pro. Everybody in the country wanted Yaxel. But then there were the guys like Adai Mara, who was a bit of an under-the-radar prospect. You know, that was great scouting by Michigan to realize, hey, this guy could be really good in our system. Similar with Elliot Cadeau. You know, Elliot Cadeau was coming off of his season last year at North Carolina. You know, there are probably some programs that wouldn't have touched Elliot Cadeau, but Michigan saw what he could be and put him in a system that was great for him and accentuated his strengths. And he was the most valuable player of the Final Four. So I think that just speaks to Michigan's ability to identify things that these guys could do well, and then put them in a program that accentuated their strengths.
Austin, thank you, man. It's great to have you on. I know it's been a long stretch. Thank you for joining us today and giving us a little feedback and also painting a picture from Ann Arbor, Michigan. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day and week.
All right, you too. Thank you.
Austin Meek, theathletic.com. You know, we were talking about the portal additions, and in one article that was from a respected outlet, they were like 26th, but their portal class was like 12 or 14 million, or that was 20. Can you imagine? That was 26th as far as amount of money on a roster. Michigan at 14 million, 26th among Division I schools.
Well, I mean,
I'm going to look it up. I know you guys kind of gave me that side eye.
I don't believe that was 26th in the country.
All right, let me look. All right.
I mean, I understand what the article says.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you that I don't believe whatever that article says, that they spent the 26th most money in college basketball. I don't believe that for a second. How do you have the number one portal class if at worst it's number 2 and you spent the 26th most?
Yeah,
that math ain't mathing.
I don't know where and I'm not arguing, because you could have 5 different outlets. So who's the number 1 quarterback? What? I did not see that they were ranked as the number 1 portal class.
Yaxel Lindeborg could have been in the NBA last year, and he decided to go to Michigan because he knew he wasn't quite ready yet, because he would have been kind of in that 25 to 30 range as a pick, but he did really well. So, coming back that he had, 2 commas and a crooked number in front of those commas when he came in. It wasn't just $1 million. So I would say on him alone, that puts them probably higher than 26.
I don't like either one of your attitudes.
I'm looking at On 3, and it has for their 2026 team transfer. Okay, so this is 26 though, right? So I'd be looking at 25 is what I need to look at.
25. Well, they would be the class of 25.
Okay, so on 3, for example, they were number 4. Okay, so I know that they've been mentioned elsewhere as number 1. I don't know if that's according to 247. Maybe that's what it's according to. But regardless, yeah, they didn't go out and get Yaxel Lindeborg and Cadeau and Mara and Johnson. Like all the guys that helped them to go win a national title just last night. They didn't get all those guys and spend the 26th amount in college basketball. I just simply don't believe that. So you tell me Baylor spent more in the portal than Michigan did?
Well, not if you count what's his name, Rob Rightleaf, and that probably counted.
But
against
that's what I'm
him.
saying. I just googled it randomly.
This is from Front Office Sports, and it's Dusty May built his Michigan team on transfers. Reported $10 million NIL budget, one of the most expensive in college basketball. That's from Front Office Sports. They're pretty damn good about getting information.
Okay, ESPN top transfer portal class is number 3, Michigan. So yeah, I mean, maybe I'm just misunderstanding.
Here, the top 10 men's basketball teams who spent the most in 25. I don't know. That might be last year. That may be last year. Indiana, Tennessee. No, Indiana was one. That was the thing. They had 32 million. Arizona, Texas, Yukon, Arkansas, Michigan State, Kentucky, Auburn, and Louisville in the top 10, but not Michigan. There's all sorts of different. That's one of the things about the NFL. You know how much the Cowboys are spending in free agency, or how much under the cap they are, or how much this and that. And you really still don't when it comes to the college sports.
So now they were top 10. Okay, if they were number 1, the point being they went and got 4 out of their 5 starters out of the portal, and their biggest impact players in the tournament.
All 5 starters last night were transfer portal
so
guys.
all 5. Okay, so you guys mentioned 4 of them. So all 5 were transfer portal guys. But I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, spend $100 million. It doesn't matter. It's all legal. It's all on the up and up. Michigan clearly invested heavily in the portal, and that's why they won last night. In addition to the fact that Dusty May is a great coach and that they had the right chemistry and all those things. But yeah, like. The rankings nowadays are just so all over the place. Whether it's like, oh, well, ESPN said this. Well, then On3 said this. Well, then Rival said this. Well, isn't that On3? Well, Rival said that, but On3 said that. 247, though, said this. So, like, point being, they spent whatever they spent.
Yeah, they did a damn good job.
Point is, they spent whatever they spent, and it resulted in a national championship. So I'd say that's a good return on whatever it is that they put out there.
The reason I had said that, and we got to go for Paul's top 5 and the rest of it, is that I saw someone respond to Michigan. It's unfortunate this team is getting so much credit because they were bought, whatever, or just like you saw with Tech or whoever in football. And this one guy who's a national writer, might have been CJ Moore, countered that with some of these guys were good, but they weren't like alphas. Well, they were alphas this year. Doesn't matter. They were great. They won the national title, and good for them.
And we were spending way too much energy on just a complete
it's a discussion. No.
I know, but just somebody that to the immediate thoughts like, well, let's see how I can negate this. You're probably an Ohio State fan or something, but buddy, whoever you are, get used to it because this is the way it is now. So
I'll tell you one thing. In that Made for March, which you both should watch, it's on Paramount Plus. Diamara in his little vignette talks about, I was not told the truth about my playing time at UCLA. And I thought, oh, well, I would much rather play for nice Midwestern, nice guy, Dusty May than angry about the air conditioning, Mick Cronin.
Yeah, I think it worked out well for him, for sure.
When we come back, we'll have Paul's top 5. We'll have the wheel spin, and then also the quiz results, poll results, or the quiz questions, poll results, and more. This is 365 Sports. It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Declaration of Deals is at Allen Samuels in Waco. Get $11,000 off a new Ram 1500 Lone Star, plus 2.9% for 72 months. And America's best full-size truck powertrain 10-year 100,000-mile limited warranty at Allen Samuels in Waco.
This 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Financial Advisors, Ben Erlinson and Brad Wilson in Waco, and Cam Heathcott in Conroe, with an individualized approach to addressing your financial needs, including education, savings, planning for retirement, and protection strategies. Edward Jones Financial Advisors, making sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Now it's time for 365 Sports. This is Paul Catalina's Top 5.
Welcome in. Paul Catalina's Top 5 brought to you by Flag and Anthem. Go to flagandanthem.com. Use our promo code 365sports for a discount at checkout. We're doing college basketball off-season predictions. Now that the season is over, the transfer portal opens here in about a week or so, and we can see all the different things that are going to happen. So let's dive in. Number 5, Dan Hurley will turn down the NBA again. The Lakers made a push for him. I think he got kind of close to taking it, but I think he wisely turned that down because I don't want to be the coach responsible for LeBron's last ride if I am leaving the best college basketball situation in the country. 3 of the last 4 Final Fours, 3 of the last 4 championship games, and 2 of those they actually did win. It's ridiculous. Yukon is basketball heaven. I would not leave there to try and help LeBron win one more title. It's too much pressure. I've got a good thing going. I think Dan Hurley eventually gets wrestled away by the NBA, but I don't think it's this season. Number 4, Chapel Hill goes Europe. Michael Malone is the new coach. He is very connected to Nikola Jokic, who he made into a 3-time MVP when he was the coach of the Denver Nuggets. Now he brings Europe to Chapel Hill, which actually has happened once in the past. It was in the 1600s when, British settlers came and settled in North Carolina. History lesson. That one's free. But I digress. They're going to have a lot of European players. It's going to spread throughout all of college basketball. Illinois, really the best success story when it comes to that. And Michigan with Adai Mara, who is from Spain. Those things are going to happen more and more and more as European players are going to come into American college basketball because of NIL and those opportunities. And Michael Malone will be one of the guys who helps open the floodgates even more than Brad Underwood and Dusty May already have. So expect to see that, plus a wave of pretty good transfers from right here, stateside. Number 3, I think Texas is going to sign a very big-time portal class. Now, this is not some sort of big revelation. This was always kind of the plan with Sean Miller. Year 1 started and stopped a little bit, but they closed strong, winning 3 NCAA tournament games, including their first 4 game, and they were one of the hotter teams at the end of the season there. Of course, lost to Purdue on a last-second tip-in. So they had a shot at the Elite Eight, a real shot of beating one of the best teams in the country in Purdue. And going to the Elite Eight, I think that helps back up Sean Miller and his credibility even more, as if he needed it. But now they have proof of concept. Now players will start coming for that money and the coach. It's not always just about the money. You kind of have to show that you've got it pointed in the right direction. And for Texas and Sean Miller, that looks absolutely true. Number 2, Bill Self and KU push all the chips to the middle. This could be the last ride for Bill Self, or it couldn't be. But I would think that every year, for however long he does coach, they're going to start pushing the chips to the middle. Pictured here is Tyron Stokes, who is going to commit shortly. It's pretty much down to Kansas and Kentucky, with most people thinking he will select Kansas because his best friend has already committed to Kansas. And the NIL money's been agreed to and all these other things. The rumors all surround him going to Kansas. This is this year's Darren Peterson push. We'll see if he's quite as good as Darren Peterson, which he'll probably be more available because the cramping thing likely won't happen to him as well. But I expect Kansas to go big in the portal and all the way around, finding Bill Self guys to help for whatever the last ride is, if it's this year or a year or 2 from now. Number 1, Dusty May, seen here in his glorious Mays pullover, gets a blank check because Michigan just won 2 years. Now, he pretty much already had a blank check anyway, but 2 years after coming in, winning the title and doing what he did, that check is going to get blanker, or nobody's going to ask questions when he fills it in. Michigan gonna go nuts. They're going to go nuts for Kyle Whittingham in football. They're going to go nuts for Dusty May. Michigan has a real shot at being the best athletic department in the country for the next few years, because of the coaches they have on staff, the money they have behind them, and the success they've had winning a football title 2 years ago and a basketball title yesterday. That is going to push them into blank check territory all the way across the board. That's going to do it for the top 5. Rez, rev up that wheel. all-time favorite.
Ooh,
This is tough. This is tough.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. I have tried to actually. It's funny. Actually, I just had a conversation with my aunt over the weekend about how I was trying to cut out sugar because I got into a pattern of eating a lot of candy and stuff and just a bad habit. And so I was just trying to eat a little bit healthier. And then this guy proceeds to give like a 10-pound bag of candy to the entire family on Easter, like less than 24 hours. And I know it's fine. It's just funny that I literally had that conversation the night before. And then got the largest Easter basket I've ever seen in my entire life. Like could feed a nation the amount of candy.
That wasn't for you guys, it was for Gracie Lynn.
But I do love sugar, and so if I had to pick one, like I love oatmeal pies. They're great. I don't get those regularly, but on occasion I like having those. I think I'd go Nutty Bars.
I thought that was like your.
I think I'd go Nutty Bars. Yeah,
like that's always been like a go-to for you. At least I had that listed in my notes.
Oatmeal cream pies used to be kind of a go-to for me. I still like, I don't know, my taste have changed a little bit, but I would say, man, there was a time where I could really, and I can't really, the taste of it's changed to me over the years. It tastes more artificial if that was even possible, but I did love Ding Dongs.
Ding Dongs.
Oh, is that a Little Debbie?
No, that's a Hostess.
Oh,
that's
okay. I thought that's what we were talking about.
No.
The question said Little Debbie or anything related to in the say universe.
So you could say Twinkies,
I could say Twinkies,
Snowballs. Or
mine are the Suzy Q's.
Yeah.
The black. I haven't had one in forever. I like the what do you call them? Not ho-hos.
Ho-hos are another Hostess
the cupcakes with the little white spin drawing on the top.
Just the regular like Hostess cupcakes.
Hostess cupcakes, Twinkies, or Suzy Q's. I can't pick between the three. They're all too good.
I just now realized by saying all the names of Hostess things out loud in a row that I feel like they were trying to make people say stuff that's embarrassing.
Yeah, that's it right there.
Yeah, he likes the
they were trying to say ho-hos a lot.
Well, no, look, I just said I love Ding Dongs.
What'd you eat last night? Some ho-hos.
I mean, like, and then Twinkie. You
check out the new shirt in the store. Paul loves Ding Dongs.
I love the cream filled in the ho-hos, the Ding Dongs, the Suzy Q's, and the Twinkies.
Yeah.
All right.
So
there we go.
Again, we kind of made it worse.
We were pretty passionate about that one. Now to the quizzes. Which animal nickname is the most frequently used mascot in all of Division I athletics?
I got to say tigers.
I think it's tigers or bulldogs.
Yeah.
I'm fine going with tigers, but I definitely think it's tigers or bulldogs.
The Lions, the Tigers, the Bears.
The Bears, there's a lot of like Bruins is a bear, but they're not so there's some,
like the Cow Bears.
Yeah. So, but
there's Baylor Bears.
Yeah. Usually Bruins, that's a bear, but it's not. I would say that I'm going to say, I think
Eagles would be last, although I know Boston College, isn't that who they are?
There's three Tigers in the SEC.
Auburn,
that's
LSU,
fair.
And Mizzou.
Yeah. Let's go. Oh, you guys, what are you going to pick?
I'm saying Tigers.
I'll say Tigers.
All right, let's do Tigers.
Bulldogs.
Georgia.
There are currently 14 different D1 programs that use the Bulldog nicknames, including powerhouse schools like Georgia, Gonzaga, and Mississippi State.
Powerhouse schools in that sentence is Mississippi State, with all due respect.
The tradition started in 1890 when Yale University established Handsome Dan as the first live mascot in America. While there are more Eagles across all levels of college sports, the Bulldogs dominate the top tier of D1.
All right.
Wow. Okay.
We didn't get that one right. We've been on a pretty good run. We got to get this one right to kind of get back on our streak. And it is golf question.
On this day in history, which 23-year-old golf phenom became the youngest player at the time to win the Masters, earning the first of his record 6 green jackets? Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods, Arnold Palmer, or Gary Player?
Well, Jack's the only one that's won 6. Tiger's won 5, so it has to be Jack Nicklaus.
Yep. Speaking of Bears.
Yeah, there it is.
There we go.
All right.
I'll let you have this one.
No, let me. The Golden Bear, Jack Nicklaus, who was from Ohio State, by the way, Ohio State University, sank a 3-foot par putt on April 7th of 1963. The final hole beat Tony Lima by a single stroke. This victory made him the youngest Masters champion until Tiger broke it in 97. Nicklaus eventually went on to win 6 green jackets. His final victory, a dramatic 1986 comeback on the back 9 when he made a putt on 17 and Vern Lundquist went, "Yes, sir!"
Yeah.
At 46 years old.
Jack is the second favorite member of his family to me. His grandson, Nick O'Leary, was a tight end on Florida State's 2013 national championship team.
I think that 86 match, I have a story, but we don't have time for it, about when I was doing local TV. I did the highlights, and then I realized, why would I do the highlights? Let the broadcasters do the highlights. So I just edited it together like 3 minutes of never said a word other than Jack Nicklaus won the Masters, dramatic, and all the broadcasters did the play-by-play.
Nice.
It's one of my favorite nights of doing local TV. All right. Results.
Has the SEC officially lost its king of college sports crown? Yes, the Big Ten rules at 56%. No, it's just a cycle, 44%.
I say yes, the Big Ten rules. I think 3 straight. It'd be one thing if you had a couple years football championships get broken up and you don't win it, but 3 years in a row, three different teams, a first time, all time, never anybody, even in Bloomington, Indiana, would have predicted champion. And then to turn around and win women's basketball when you had South Carolina and Texas amongst the teams in the Final Four vying from the SEC, and then to go win the basketball title, and the SEC didn't get a single team despite having the most invites, the only one with double digits.
Right? Yeah.
They have nobody in the Final Four. So for all those reasons, I'm going to say no. Right now, it's the Big Ten is ruling college sports, and they've got the trophy case to show it. Now, I do think also things can be cyclical.
I don't think the cycles are going to be as long.
I don't think the Big Ten is just going to win like 18 of the next 20 natties in football or anything. But right now, they are clearly the one having the most success. I don't think there's any question about that.
Yep. And I bet there are some discussions, text messages, guys like, hey, what? I'm getting tired of hearing about the Big Ten from those who we got tired of hearing from them. All right. Yes, 56%. Close vote, but yes. What is the correct Arnold Palmer ratio?
75% tea, 25% lemonade was at 21%. 50-50 perfect balance is at 47%. 75-25 at 17, and spiked the John Daly is at 15.
That's got a little something in it, huh?
Yeah, a little vodka.
You ever see those memes the last week and a half with Tiger's deal that has John Daly driving him?
Yeah. No. Well, John Daly, who's never gotten a DUI apparently, which
you know what? I bet he doesn't drive that often.
Yeah.
He probably has somebody drive him a lot of the time.
Yeah, because he knows. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think when you become a billionaire, the last thing you should do is drive like the rest of us peasants.
Right. Or just have a big piece of land and go drive on that all you want to. But just be smarter. Like Tiger's clearly got an issue. I'm glad he's getting it worked out. And on this question, and I don't mean like, hey, you got a big piece of land, go drive drunk all over it. I just mean like, just corral yourself and be smart about it. But I don't drink a lot of Arnold Palmers. I'd say 50-50 though, I guess.
I think 50-50 to me is the best. I think you got to do it. I do like a John Daly.
Well, but the correct one is, what is the answer?
I mean, the 50-51.
Okay. I thought it would be more lemonade. I thought it would be the 75-25 one way or the other. I've had a couple of them, not a lot of them.
This was a vote. It's whatever you think the correct thing is.
I know, but I'm just saying, I think I'd rather have the 75 T25.
Do you know what Arnold Palmer did? And I saw this. They did it in an ESPN commercial at the cafeteria, which was, I thought, very funny. Where he would fill it up with tea, then lemonade, then tea. So he was more 67-33.
Yeah, and I think I'd probably like that better because I like lemonade, but it can be just too tardy and sweet. So to have that iced tea kind of cut through that, I could see where that'd be probably the best, the one that I would enjoy the most.
I can see that too.
Big Arnold Palmer fan here, so I'll try a bunch of different ways.
The Masters, Arnie, Player, Nicklaus, Trevino, etc.
Yeah.
Trevino hated Augusta National though. All right, there we are with the polls, the quizzes, and also the wheel. Thank you, Rez. We appreciate you. Garrett Ross, Andrew Valet, appreciate you very much. We're back tomorrow at 3 o'clock, and we'll look at the Masters favorites with Rob Bolton. We'll also hear NFL Draft with John Cooper, and John McClain will join us. Thank you for being a part of what we do. Good night, 365 Sports.